Roar. After the muscles all over the demon sheep's body stopped trembling, it let out an earth-shattering roar. Immediately after, the 7 people, including Luo Yuan and Su Ning, who were not yet fully grounded, as well as Chen Yingyuan and Peng Bo, who were struggling to dodge under the demon sheep's belly, felt something simultaneously and glanced out of the corners of their eyes. At that glance, the 9 individuals immediately felt their scalps go numb and their bodies stiffen with shock. What did they see? The surface of the demon sheep was covered with snow-white bristles, and hundreds of eyes suddenly opened on its body. The eyes were veined with blood, appearing extremely menacing from a distance with a scarlet hue, and inside were vertical golden pupils. The eyes on different parts were staring at the people in their vicinity, following them as they moved, sinister and mysterious to the extreme. It's not 100 eyes level, it's 1,000-eyed demon sheep. We're done for. On the ground, Peng Bo raised his head to see countless pupils on the demon sheep's belly, and then exchanged a glance with Chen Yingyuan not far away. They saw despair on each other's faces. The demon sheep had just shattered the trees within a mile radius to drive Luo Yuan and the 7 down. With them falling from the trees, there was naturally no opportunity to draw their bows. And it took this opportunity to open all its eyes on its body. The purpose was obvious. Luo Yuan and the 7 were further away and still had a chance to escape. The 2 of them were right under the demon sheep's belly. They had no chance to escape at all. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the next moment, just as Chen Peng and his companion thought, the 1,000 golden pupils on the demon sheep's body suddenly shot out sharp golden beams. Countless beams pierced through the snowy night, illuminating the surrounding area for miles in an instant. 5 people fell from the trees. Yuan Cheng, Su Ning, Luo Yuan, and Yue Feng could not dodge and were at least pierced by 4 or 5 beams each, falling to the ground with nearly no ability to move. Among the 5, Yuan Dao, who was slightly stronger, blocked a critical hit with his broadsword, but his shoulder was still struck by a beam, slashing off a large chunk of flesh. Chen Yingba and Wu Tianxing, being the closest, met the worst fate, with their shoulders, chests, abdomens, and lower limbs each hit by 2 or 3 beams on average. Their bodies bore over a dozen bloody holes. Even before hitting the ground, they were unconscious, and upon landing, blood gushed from their wounds, staining their clothes red. The 7 more distant individuals were already like this, so Chen Peng and his companion, who were just under the demon sheep's belly, were surely doomed without an unexpected turn of events. However, surprisingly, not only were the 2 of them not dead, but their injuries were the lightest. Leader! Leader! A shadow stood in front of them, blocking all the golden beams shot from the demon sheep's belly, and that shadow even grabbed them and threw them directly beside Yuan Dao. The 2, who had narrowly escaped death, saw that it was Xia Hong who saved them, and they were overjoyed and shouted in excitement. But the next second, realizing the 1,000-eyed demon sheep's power was even more terrifying than Xia Hong, they immediately prepared to issue a warning. Unfortunately, before they could speak, Xia Hong spoke first. "Didn't you say it was no problem? A demon sheep and you ended up like this?" Hearing Xia Hong's displeased tone, Chen Yingyuan and Peng Bo quickly explained. "Leader, we misjudged. It's a 1,000-eyed demon sheep." Earlier, Peng Bo thought this demon sheep was just about to break through to 1,000 eyes level, but having witnessed the scene of it breaking through the trees within a mile radius, it was clear they had been deceived by this demon sheep. The strength of a high-level demon sheep is measured by the number of eyes it has. 100 eyes level is most common, with power between 15 to 18 bristles. This demon sheep's eyes exceed 1,000. Its strength is definitely above 20 bristles. He quickly spoke out the demon sheep's strength, trying to persuade Xia Hong to flee, but he was interrupted even before he could finish. Bam! He was interrupted by a high kick from Xia Hong. After throwing them, Xia Hong remained under the demon sheep's belly. He hadn't even drawn the knife from his waist, merely struck it with an upward kick into the belly. Then a breathtaking scene unfolded. The massive body of the demon sheep, nearly 30 meters long, was kicked into the sky by Xia Hong, ascending 20 to 30 meters high. It wasn't over yet. Xia Hong leaped off the ground, flew over the demon sheep's head, with a blood jade-colored horizontal blade appearing in his hand. Slash! With a reverse grip on the horizontal blade, Xia Hong fiercely plunged down, piercing straight through the demon sheep's neck, the terrifying force driving its body into the ground with an earth-shattering crash. Bam! The demon sheep had just shattered the trees within a mile, but the shockwave from Xia Hong's blow was even more terrifying, spreading over half a mile outward. Crack! Roared! The sound of bones cracking at the demon sheep's neck was incredibly crisp, and this time its roar was even more furious than before, carrying a hint of pain, bordering on frenzy. Stamp, stamp, stamp. It was being firmly pressed into the ground by Xia Hong, thrashing its limbs dozens of times, and realizing its strength could not break free from Xia Hong, it let out a sudden roar. The golden eyes all over its body opened once more. The golden pupils in the eyes, without exception, were fixated on Xia Hong. It was determined to fight to the death. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Hundreds of beams shot from the eyes on the demon sheep's back, all aiming for Xia Hong. Hiss! Xia Hong sneered, gripping the horizontal blade with both hands, dodging the beams while encircling the demon sheep's neck, abruptly pulling down from the left. Chapter 666, Chapter 278, Thousand-Eyed Demon Sheep, Terrifying Power, Spiritual Medicine 2. At such a close distance, with hundreds of golden beams shooting towards him, it was unrealistic for Xia Hong to completely dodge them, so he only avoided his vital areas, enduring dozens of them on his shoulders and back. Those golden beams, capable of penetrating the bodies of Peng Bo, Chen Yingyuan, and the other 9, merely broke the skin when they struck Xia Hong, unable to pierce through flesh. Moreover, since the impacts weren't on vital areas, Xia Hong wasn't seriously injured at all, nor did his movements become distorted. The demon sheep couldn't hurt him, but the damage he inflicted on it was fierce. Just now, with a sweep of his horizontal blade at the demon sheep's head, he left an extraordinary half-meter deep cut on the left side of its neck. Strangely, no blood flowed out from the cut. In fact, even when Xia Hong stabbed into the demon sheep's neck with the first strike, not a single drop of blood was splattered. Such a deep wound with no blood flowing out. Chen Peng and the others were filled with confusion and bewilderment. Soon, Yuan Dao's exclamation resolved their doubts. The cold blood blade, the leader's cold blood blade, it can absorb cold beast blood. Thud, thud, thud. With its last life-saving trick useless and realizing it was at a dead end, the demon sheep began an intense struggle, its limbs furiously thrashing on the ground, occasionally trying to shake off or ram Xia Hong off its neck with its sharp horns. Nevertheless, all was in vain. Xia Hong switched to holding the saber with one hand, maintaining the cold blood blade embedded in the demon sheep's neck, while with his other hand, he drew the dragon sparrow saber and thrust it directly into the already cut open wound. Splurred. This strike, Xia Hong aimed straight into the demon sheep's skull. Once pierced through, the demon sheep's body instantly tensed up, its previously thrashing limbs turning rigid, ceasing all movement. Hiss. Perceiving the demon sheep's death, Xia Hong swiftly withdrew the cold blood blade to prevent its body from being drained dry of its blood. After the demon sheep's life ended, its massive body immediately began to shrink, from an original length of nearly 30 meters, gradually reducing to just over 2 meters. Returned to its normal form, the densely packed golden eyes on the demon sheep's body became clearly visible, grotesque and terrifying. Xia Hong withdrew his gaze from the demon sheep's corpse and looked at the cold blood blade in his hand, which was growing increasingly vibrant in color, his expression subtly shocked. He clearly sensed that the cold blood blade in his hand had become heavier. At the start of the year, when Mu Dong handed the cold blood blade to him, it weighed just over 400 jins. After just slaying the first advanced frost wolf, it became over 500 jins. Now, after slaying this demon sheep, it weighs over 600 jins. I can basically confirm that this cold blood blade can continually gain weight by absorbing cold beast blood, just not sure where the upper limit is. Generally, weapons must be at least 1/10 of one's basic strength in weight to be suitable. Given his current basic strength, even a dragon sparrow saber weighing 60 to 70,000 jins doesn't feel very handy. The cold blood blade, weighing over 400 jins, feels almost as light as a feather in his hand. The problem is, with the camp's current forging capabilities, crafting a weapon of a suitable weight for him would be resource-consuming, time-intensive, labor-intensive, and highly difficult, and certainly not achievable in the short term. The cold blood blade's feature perfectly resolves this issue. Amidst Xia Hong's excitement over the cold blood blade's attributes, Chen Yingyuan, Peng Bo, and even the injured Yuan Dao and the other 7, looking at the demon sheep's carcass at his feet, felt surging waves in their hearts. The scene of Xia Hong slaying the demon sheep replayed in their minds, their faces filled with shock and alarm, leaving them with only one question in their hearts. Just how strong is the leader's strength? Compared to Yuan Dao and others, Chen Peng and the others felt even more shocked. After returning from Longyu, they'd learned much about the great Xia and were well aware that Xia Hong's greatest feat to date was saving Hu Hu from Li Tiancheng's hands. Based on that account, Xia Hong's basic strength ought to be between SEVENTEEN Chinese letter and EIGHTEEN Chinese letter, already considered top tier in Longyu, quite strong. Yet at this moment, they realized that Xia Hong's strength far surpassed that. The force just unleashed by the demon sheep was definitely above TWENTY Chinese letter, yet it had no chance to retaliate before the leader killed it outright. The demon sheep's deadly move couldn't even penetrate the leader's flesh, merely breaking his skin. This strength. Chen Peng and Peng Bo exchanged a glance, both swallowing hard. Everyone get up quickly, check on the injuries of the others. Hearing the dissatisfaction in Xia Hong's tone, Chen Peng and Peng Bo flushed with embarrassment as they looked at the injured around them, full of guilt. Rising up, they approached Xia Hong and bowed deeply. Subordinates have failed in their duties. We hope the leader forgives us. My strength was lacking, boasting recklessly, causing all the brothers to get hurt, nearly losing their lives. Please punish me, leader. Their proactive plea for forgiveness wasn't without reason. Last night, when venturing deep into Redwood Ridge, Xia Hong's original intent was to lead everyone and hunt a few advanced cold beasts as a test. It was Chen Peng and Peng Bo who volunteered, saying they could take care of the remaining 7 on their own, which led Xia Hong to let them hunt on their own while he went to a deeper location. Unexpectedly, he just hunted a frost wolf in the deep and upon returning, found the 9 in such a state. Had he been any later, there might have been deaths. Xia Hong had no mind to blame the 2, merely waving his hand helplessly, asking, Yang Lu and the beehive are both on the northern side of Redwood Ridge. You've entered Redwood Ridge more than once or twice. How could you have chosen the wrong prey? Chapter 667, Chapter 278, Thousand-Eyed Demon Sheep, Terrifying Power, Spiritual Medicine 3. The biggest problem with this unexpected disaster was obviously that Chen Peng and his companion chose the wrong target. They picked a cold beast whose strength was far superior to theirs. It's no wonder they got beaten up so badly. The issue is that both of these men are leaders of their respective groups. Given their age, their hunting experience should be quite extensive. Making such a serious mistake is indeed inexcusable, which is why Xia Hongkai asked this question. Hearing the implication in Xia Hong's words, the 2 men's faces flushed red with embarrassment. Finally, Chen Yingyuan spoke up to explain, Leader, you might not know, but we usually enter Redwood Ridge from the north and typically go no deeper than 10 kilometers. Normally, the advanced demon sheep encountered within this range are all at the 100 eyes level. We never expected to come across a 1,000-eyed demon sheep just 7 kilometers in. With this explanation, Xia Hong finally understood. The beehive and Yang Lu are both to the north of Redwood Ridge. To Chen Peng and his companion, the east side of Redwood Ridge was indeed completely unfamiliar. Coupled with the fact that Yuan Dao and others were ignorant about advanced cold beasts, it's understandable why such an oversight occurred. The hunting area for advanced cold beasts can only be slowly explored by you on both sides, eventually connecting the northern and eastern sides. This way, future hunting areas will be more expansive. In addition, the hunting area information from Yang Lu, Beehive, and Wushuang's families should be promptly consolidated to Great Xia to prevent such mistakes from happening again. Yuan Dao immediately nodded and said, Leader, rest assured, I've already handled this last month. The current exploration depth on the north side is 10 kilometers. On the east side, it's only 5 kilometers. The hunting department's current focus for exploration is on the northeast side. It should take just a few months to completely link the 2 areas. Xia Hong then showed a satisfied expression and nodded. At this moment, Peng Bo thought of something and quickly walked to the large tree where the demon sheep had been perched, dragging his injured body with him. After rummaging for a while, he let out a cry of surprise. Leader, come quickly. The demon sheep had already knocked down the large trees within a mile radius, and the tree it perched on was no exception. Xia Hong led the group to the top of the fallen tree and looked in the direction Peng Bo pointed, immediately showing a shocked expression. On some of the main branches of the big tree, there were many tightly clustered, spiral-shaped, dark green leaves. In the middle of some of the leaves were a few fist-sized, double-colored fruits, totaling more than 10. The fruit was half blue and half red, with translucent flesh-like liquid, quite ornamental. Double-colored liquid spirit fruit and pangxiang leaf. Xia Hong sniffed the leaves and fruit, and immediately displayed great joy. Leader, you have a good eye. These are indeed the two essential spiritual medicines for brewing jade bone medicine. These pangxiang leaves are the symbiotic spirit plants of the demon sheep and are also their favorite food. Wherever the demon sheep perch, there's a high probability of finding them. This demon sheep must have perched here for quite some time. There are many pangxiang leaves. If we came earlier, there might have been more spirit fruits. Essential spiritual medicines for brewing jade bone medicine. Xia Hong and Peng Bo got excited for different reasons. Or rather, Xia Hong was excited about more than just this. These two spiritual medicines can not only be used to refine Yangyuan pills. Crucially, they are also the main materials for making blood essence pills. Blood essence pills are auxiliary cultivation elixirs for the earth-digging realm limit. From a certain perspective, they can accelerate the increase in cold resistance level numbers at the camp. Suddenly realizing something, Xia Hong's eyes lit up. He looked at Chen Yingyuan and Peng Bo and asked, "Are there any other spirit plant varieties that are symbiotic with advanced cold beasts? You've hunted many advanced cold beasts before. Tell me everything you know." These are critical pieces of information that can be obtained without risking life and limb. Chen Yingyuan and Peng Bo have been at the camp for so long, and he's only now asking. Xia Hong patted his forehead and secretly cursed his own foolishness. Chapter 668, Chapter 279, Refocusing, Expanding Territory and the Disappearing Army. Xia Hong originally thought that the greatest significance of annexing the three camps in Longyu was acquiring a large population. But after this hunt, he realized it was far more than that. It wasn't just about population, the hunting, gathering, alchemy, food, and production. The survival experience accumulated by the three families over decades was equally precious wealth. From a camp development perspective, these experiences are even more important than the population. Danger often stems from the unknown, and absorbing the accumulated experiences of predecessors is the lowest cost and fastest way for successors to familiarize themselves with unfamiliar things. Especially after Chen Yingyuan and Peng Bo each spoke of 2 or 3 ways to find and gather valuable spiritual medicines, he was even more convinced of his idea. The red sun fruit trees are very small, yet prefer cold light, so they generally grow at high altitudes, blooming at night and bearing fruit during the day. The ripening time is very short, lasting only 2 hours, so you need to pick them at noon during the day. The cold beard grass and linglong fruit are the advanced blue moon elf's favorite foods. To find these 2 spiritual medicines, you must first find the advanced blue moon elf. Ice soul liquid is the cream that forms when the ice soul stone absorbs cold air. The ice soul stone is an oval, smooth, natural stone exposed without being covered by snow. Such stones are rare, generally found on mountaintops, or in the nests of some advanced flying beasts or cold beasts. The yin-yang flower is considered a specialty of Long Mountain, found in some caves that never see sunlight, or in deep ravines and crevices. Red sun fruit, cold beard grass, linglong fruit, ice soul liquid, yin-yang flower. If this relied on oneself or the camp's hunting teams to explore, it would not only take a lot of time but would probably also cost many lives. But now it was known directly from the mouths of Chen Yingyuan and Peng Bo. Not only these, but Chen Peng was a leader in his respective camp, and the survival experiences they controlled were undoubtedly more than these points. This is no small matter. Go back and notify Xia Chuan to bring together the 6 ministries to compile all the survival experiences of the 3 families, and it would be best to compile them into a book. After calculating in his heart, Xia Hong saw that Yuan Dao and Chen Yingyuan had already gathered all the wounded together. Chen Yingba and Wu Tianxing were the most seriously injured, already unconscious. Luo Yuan and Yuan Cheng, among others, were in slightly better condition, recovering part of their mobility after taking blood sore pills. Prepare to send everyone back to Xia City. Peng Bo, I left a prey on that big tree, go retrieve it. Another prey. Peng Bo was stunned for a moment, but quickly ran in the direction Xia Hong pointed. Chen Yingyuan and the others were also somewhat puzzled, but soon, when they saw the prey Peng Bo brought back from that big tree, their expressions all froze. What Peng Bo brought back was a blue frost wolf over a meter in length. The whole pelt of the frost wolf was as blue as if washed, except for the eye on the left side of its face that had been pierced. No other obvious wounds could be found, and the not yet entirely stiff body indicated that it had been dead for no more than 10 minutes at most. That is to say, this frost wolf was directly killed by having its eye pierced. No, Yuan Dao and the others even suspected that this frost wolf didn't even have time to enter combat mode before being killed in one strike by Xia Hong. The leader just killed an advanced frost wolf. The scene where Xia Hong had simply and neatly killed the demon sheep was still fresh in their minds, and the 7 people had not yet recovered from the shock. To learn that before saving them, Xia Hong had also killed an advanced frost wolf, the shock in their hearts was imaginable. How much main does the leader's basic strength have now? Is it 10 times mine? Could it still be more? The thoughts in the hearts of the 7 people were unknown to Xia Hong. He picked up the demon sheep's body, weighed it a few times, and immediately had a sense of it in his mind. The bone yield of the frost wolf should only be over 3 jin. The demon sheep should be more, over 5 jin. Normally, the stronger the cold beast, the greater the production of jade bone. Leader, not only jade bone, the flesh of the advanced cold beast is also precious. Peng Bo had already taken out a leather bag to collect the blood of the frost wolf, and seeing that Xia Hong only mentioned the jade bone yield, immediately reminded him. The blood volume of an advanced cold beast is about 10 to 15 jin. Although it seems to be only a quarter of an intermediate cold beast's, its effect is more than 10 times that of the latter. The meat is not simple either. High-level beast meat not only contains enormous energy, but the key is that this energy can also be stored in the human body and released automatically according to consumption. After Peng Bo finished speaking, Chen Yingyuan nodded and continued. Moreover, the blood and flesh of an advanced cold beast itself count as 2 types of spiritual medicine, which can be used in alchemy. Our beehive had a pharmacist with several pill recipes applicable. Upon hearing the two's reminders, a smile appeared on Xia Hong's face. Previously, in the Mirror Valley, he had already cut off an arm of an advanced snow mane, and he was well aware of the special nature of advanced cold beast flesh and blood. The reason for the smile was the initiative of Chen Peng and the two. After all, being leaders of giant camps, plus the means by which Great Xia advanced into Longyu and subdued the 2 families, were not particularly honorable, so Chen Peng and the 2, including Wu Tianxing and Chen Yingba, had no real sense of belonging to the camp, and Xia Hong was well aware of this. Obviously, the partial strength he had just displayed caused some subtle changes in these 2 people's mentalities. It's not that the 4 would henceforth become steadfastly loyal to Great Xia. The shift in mentality will not happen overnight. There must be a gradual process. As long as there is a good start, there will always be a day of fruition. Chapter 669, Chapter 279, Refocusing, Expanding Territory and the Disappearing Army. All right, let's head back. Upon Xia Hong's command, the group hoisted the unconscious Chen Yingba and Wu Tianxing onto their backs, gathered the 2 hunted beasts, and the harvested double liquid color spirit fruit and Pangxiang leaf, and followed Xia Hong as they embarked on the return journey. During the return trip, sensing the presence of many advanced cold beasts nearby, everyone quickened their pace, as if only by staying close to Xia Hong would they be safe. Xia Hong noticed their actions, shook his head slightly, and cast his gaze towards the depths of the western side of Redwood Ridge, sighing softly in his heart. At the current pace, exploring the entirety of Redwood Ridge might take an unknown number of years. I need to think of a way. Before the war in Longyu, the hunting department's exploration depth into Redwood Ridge was only 6 kilometers. With the war in Longyu commencing, a large number of elites left, causing the exploration efforts to halt. It was hard to imagine that, with Xia Hong managing the valley for nearly 3 years, the Great Xia's exploration of Redwood Ridge only extended 6 kilometers into the outskirts, and with tonight's advancement of another kilometer, it totaled only 7 kilometers. Of course, with Xia Hong's increasing strength, he observed more and more, becoming less of a stranger to Redwood Ridge than before. Now it's basically confirmed that the eastern side of Redwood Ridge is Twin Dragon Mountain, the southern end leads to Xing River, the north connects to Pingxi Plain, and to the west is Upper Long Mountain. In the future, as long as we merge our exploration range with those of Yanglu and Beehive, and control the southern edge along Xing River, the next step would be to explore westward. As soon as Upper Long Mountain comes into view, it can be considered that the entirety of Redwood Ridge has been secured. Xia Hong previously surveyed that the total depth of Redwood Ridge to the west potentially exceeded 200 kilometers. With the current efficiency of the camp's exploration, it would likely take decades or even a century to explore the entire region thoroughly. The hunting team is ultimately too small in scale, and their strength is lacking. To accelerate the exploration progress, reliance on the military is necessary. I hope the Cloud Dragon army won't disappoint me. Xia Hong's eyes flickered as he retracted his gaze and continued towards Xia City. Composed of a well-equipped, highly trained army of 1,000 at the earth-digging realm limit, barring a large-scale beast tide like Arrow Bamboo Forest, there was no cold beast capable of stopping them. Even small or medium beast tides could be completely withstood. Once the Cloud Dragon army truly formed into a combat force, further exploration of Redwood Ridge would become much simpler. Xia Hong quietly led 9 people back to Xia City, causing astonishment among the cold resistance-level individuals upon seeing their injuries. They also aimed to hunt advanced cold beasts in the future, so they eagerly probed for information from Yuan Dao and others, who did not conceal anything and recounted the events. The injuries of Chen Yingba and Wu Changxing were severe, requiring more than a month of recuperation in Xia City, temporarily reducing the camp's advanced cold resistance level combat strength by 2. Fortunately, the Great Xia was not currently engaged in warfare, so the impact was not significant. Xia Chuan acted swiftly. Although Xia Hong allowed 5 days, he took only 1 day to finalize the 1,000-member roster of the Cloud Dragon Army at the hunting department. On the night of June 5th, that list was placed on Xia Hong's desk. Presumably having begun military organization, Xia Chuan donned a pale gold 100-forged armor and explained to Xia Hong, "At the earth-digging realm limit, there are currently 803 people. The remaining 197, with basic strengths exceeding 27,000, are expected to break through the earth-digging realm limit within 3 months, given sufficient supplies of beast spirit pills and beast meat." After glancing over the list, Xia Hong inquired, "Have all these people gathered in Xia City?" Xia Chuan shook his head and replied, 275 people are dispersed between Wushuang and Hankyang posts, while the remaining 725 are in Xia City. I've given them 1 day to manage all their personal matters. After nightfall on June 9th, I will lead them to Wushuang to meet up with the people there. Before the assembly, Wushuang and Hankyang each stationed 1,000 earth-digging realm individuals, undoubtedly including some at the earth-digging realm limit. This time, the army was selected to be stationed at Longyu. Instead of having the over 200 come back, it was more convenient for Xia Chuan to lead the 700 from Xia City directly over. Xia Hong nodded and continued to ask, "How many sets of weapons and armor has the craftsman workshop prepared? It's probably still insufficient, right?" The army's weapons and armor must be at the 100 forging level. If memory serves, in late April when they returned, Mu Dong had mentioned that the craftsman workshop produced 500 forged weapons and 2 suits of 100 forged armor per day. Calculating from then to now, it's still less than 40 days, so the quantity is definitely inadequate. Sure enough, Xia Chuan nodded, showing a hint of helplessness. The craftsman department has only gathered 350 100 forged horizontal blades, 870 30-stone iron core bows, and 140 suits of 100 forged thunder QE iron armor. Weapons are not urgent as each soldier at the earth-digging realm limit essentially has 100 forged weapon. They can first use their own. The iron core bows, combined with theirs, are also complete. The main issue is the armor, which is a bit troublesome, and I've ordered Mu Dong to accelerate the production. The 100 forged iron armor crafted by the Great Xia Craftsman Workshop was mixed with Thunder QE skull, resulting in a pale gold appearance, with a defensive effect at least 30 to 50% better than that of regular 100 forged iron armor. The forging process is more complex, thus requiring more time as well. How long will it take approximately? Xia Chuan pondered for a moment and replied, "The artifact refining workshop's 50 furnaces are all dedicated to forging the armor now, producing about 4 to 5 sets per day, so it'll take at least 4 to 5 months at the fastest." This all boils down to a problem of foundation. Great Xia's start was, after all, too late, and for something like 100 forged armor, it's not about the forging capability but about the immense time required for manufacturing. Long Mountain and Zhejiang were able to produce so much, not for any other reason but prior significant investments in this area. For Great Xia to catch up now, they would have to invest the same amount of time. Too slow, have Mu Dong figure out a way to increase the number of craftsmen. Items like 100 forged armor and weapons, including iron core bows, are both necessities and consumables. Demand will only grow over time. With the recent population surge, he should focus on this. Such a slow forging speed will cause issues in the future. Got it, big brother. The armor shortage issue cannot be resolved in the short term. Fortunately, there's no immediate war, so using 10 forging level equipment temporarily won't cause major issues, as long as no large-scale battles occur. In the subsequent 2 days, observable changes took place in Xia City. Many at the earth-digging realm limit bade farewell to their original hunting teams, explained matters to their families, and reported to the soldiers' camp built by Xia Chuan in the outer city. The so-called soldiers' camp was essentially a simple 2-story wooden house. Whether intended to maintain the mystery of the Cloud Dragon army or not, Xia Chuan had the entire house constructed as a completely enclosed structure, with only a few windows on the top floor, preventing outsiders from seeing inside. By nightfall on June 6th, nearly all 725 people at Xia City had entered the camp, and none emerged afterward. The camp resonated with the sounds of combat, piquing the curiosity of many residents in the outer city. Those attempting to approach were turned away by stationed soldiers. This undoubtedly heightened the Cloud Dragon army's mystery and stirred greater curiosity among people. But regardless of who came, the army remained off-limits. I heard they're dealing with disobedient people. It's quite brutal. What nonsense. They're clearly choosing captains and ranking military officers. Nope, they're dividing into camps. I hear the Cloud Dragon army is divided into 10 camps, with the strongest individuals going to the reconnaissance camp. The others are sorted from Camp 1 to Camp 9 based on strength. The stronger they are, the lower their camp number. What's the reconnaissance camp? You do know? The reconnaissance camp is the elite group, staying close to the commander, acting as their eyes and personal guard. I hear the leader of the reconnaissance camp must be someone at the cold resistance level. Cold resistance level as the leader, Tesk. Yet, some rumors quickly spread, causing much debate inside and outside Xia City, as people grew more curious about the Cloud Dragon army. Unfortunately, the army's confidentiality measures were extremely effective. From the camp's closure on June 6th, no one was able to approach, not even those at the cold resistance level. Not until the night of June 9th, did those outside the city suddenly realize that the enormous camp had vanished into thin air from the outer city. Disappeared, the camp disappeared. What do you mean disappeared? It moved. And the wooden house, such a large structure, is also gone. It was dismantled. I saw it during the nightfall. The 700+ people took it apart within minutes, moving with astonishing speed. The army is all gone. Gone? I heard they went to Longyu to replace the garrison. Chapter 670. Chapter 280. The Vanished Beast Tide and Tenfold Marching Speed. Second year of Great Xia, June 9th. More than half an hour into the night, northwest of the beehive, snow was falling heavily. The Pinxi Plain, with its low vegetation cover, has much thicker ground snow than other places, often reaching 3 to 5 meters, and some low-lying areas can be as deep as 10 meters or more, and occasionally some ravines can even reach nearly 100 meters. The hardness of the ice abyss terrain means that falling from a height of over 10 meters can injure someone at the logging realm. If someone at the freshly broken through earth digging realm were to fall from nearly 100 meters, they'd likely suffer severe injuries. Thus, for those living in this region of Longyu, traveling becomes quite troublesome. Fortunately, most people usually operate within their own area of influence and basically do not cross into the territories of other camps. For those at the cold resistance level, as well as those with stronger earth-digging realm abilities, these troubles can be overcome one way or another. That was under normal circumstances. From late April to early May, we relocated over 70,000 people from Longyu. The cold beasts, roadblocks, ravines, accumulated snow. Various accidents occurred along the way, and about 400 people were casualties during the migration. Luckily, we didn't encounter any deceitful monsters. Otherwise, this number would have likely been several times higher. On a raised snow hill, Xia Chuan, Peng Bo, Chen Yingyuan, Chen Yingba, Wu Tianxing, Lu Yang, Meng Ye, and Lin Kai stood encircling behind Xia Hong. With a brushed gold armor, Xia Chuan couldn't help but sigh at Peng Bo's description of Longyu's terrain. Peng Bo nodded in agreement. The population migration last month was indeed a special case. Usually, there wouldn't be a mass movement of people like this. But frankly speaking, being able to relocate over 70,000 people from Longyu to Xia City so far away in just half a month, with a casualty rate of less than 1%, is incredible and wouldn't be believed by any camp's people if they heard it. Peng Bo's words resonated with Chen Yingyuan. From Wushuang to the Beehive, then through Mirror Valley to Xia City, it's over 70 kilometers in a straight line, and considering the detours, it's easily over 100 kilometers. Achieving the migration of over 70,000 people in half a month is indeed astonishing. Upon hearing Chen Peng's and their astonishment, Lu Yang, Meng Yi and Lin Kai, who participated in the migration, wore slight expressions of pride. Xia Chuan was no exception, but after pondering for a moment he smiled and explained. Thanks to people familiar with the route at Wushuang, and with our deployment of a large number of elite forces along the way to ensure safety, the migration was smooth. Of course. He paused, turned to look at a distance near the snow hill, and continued. The most important part is the Xia direct path. The most challenging part of the migration route was Longyu. Once everyone reaches Mirror Valley, they can quickly take the direct path back to Xia City, making the journey several times faster. Everyone followed his gaze and nodded slightly. Clang, clang, clang. From beneath the snow hill came the sound of iron tools being struck one after another. Following the sound, one could see a 5-meter-high bonfire not far from the snow hill. Around the bonfire were hundreds of people, forging iron, driving stakes, cutting wood, moving trees, and a number of armored and sharp-witted members of the elite hunting team with strong bows in hand, patrolling the perimeter. Everyone was clearly assigned, each performing their duties energetically. Bring a log 2 meters in diameter. Start laying the crossboards, 10 people lend a hand. Clear the snow path ahead in advance, prepare to drive stakes over there. On it. If you look closely, you'll find that right behind the bonfire is a black tunnel entrance buried under the snow. At the entrance, people continually come and go with tools, transporting timber, iron, or coal stone. It is apparent they are workers on a construction site. It is hard to imagine that, on the bitter cold southeast corner of Longyu, there is such a large-scale construction site involving so many people. The Xia direct path from Mirror Valley to the Beehive is completed, and there are currently 2 under construction. The one in front of us connects the Beehive to Wushuang, and another connects the Beehive to Hankyang Gourd Valley. Once both are completed in the future, whether transporting resources or mobilizing manpower from Longyu to Redwood Ridge, the efficiency and speed will be over 10 times faster than before. Upon hearing Xia Chuan's words, the others were invigorated. Transporting resources is secondary. Mobilizing manpower is the crucial point. What does it mean to be 10 times faster? Originally, a road taking 10 hours can now be traversed in 1 hour. For individuals, this might be trivial, but what about an army? The key is that the Xia direct path is buried under the snow, completely enclosed and dark, meaning it can be traversed during the day without interruption. The Xia direct path is a colossal project, requiring considerable manpower and resources, thus having a long construction period. However, because of this, it is also difficult to destroy, unless someone at the cold resistance level relentlessly sabotages it over time, or a massive beast tide tramples it. At most a segment may get damaged, which can be quickly repaired. Its maintenance cost is almost negligible compared to the huge benefit it brings to the camp. Indeed, as the leader, Chen Yingyuan succinctly pointed out the key advantage of the Xia direct path. Everyone nodded in agreement, showing their approval. Once the Xia direct path is completed, there will hardly be any maintenance costs, apart from regularly clearing the snow atop the direct path, with each outpost hunting team patrolling once a night, reporting any issues to the craftsman department for repairs. Chapter 671, Chapter 280, The Vanished Beast Tide and Tenfold Marching Speed, Part 2. Moreover, as the iron ore at the camp becomes increasingly abundant, the construction standards of straight roads across regions are also getting higher and higher. For instance, this straight road connecting Beehive and Wushuang has been reinforced with quite a bit of iron materials, so much so that snow doesn't even need to be cleared anymore. The maintenance costs will keep dropping. After Xia Chuan finished speaking, he turned to find that Xia Hong had been staring intently to the southwest. He immediately stepped forward and softly asked, "Leader, Are you worried about that white goo? Xia Hong snapped out of it, shook his head first, then glanced at the Xia Straight Road under construction, frowning slightly as he asked everyone, "Do you think the reason there was no beast tide in Arrow Bamboo Forest in May could be related to that white goo?" Upon hearing the question, everyone's expression slightly tensed, falling into contemplation. After nightfall, they didn't travel with the Cloud Dragon army via the Xia Straight Road, but instead took the snowy path through Arrow Bamboo Forest to Mirror Valley, and then from Mirror Valley to Beehive, finally reaching their current location. The reason Xia Hong asked the question was because, while passing through Mirror Valley, Yue Feng had reported something to him. All 8 people were present at the time, so they heard it too. The regular every 4-month beast tide in Arrow Bamboo Forest had disappeared. When Yue Feng reported it, not only Xia Hong but all of them were stunned. Leaving Xia Chuan and the others aside, both Yang Lu and Beehive had relied on living off Redwood Ridge previously, so Chen Yingyuan and Peng Bo were also aware of the beast tide. Previously, every 4 months, when the crystal fruit matured, thousands of cold beasts would gather at Redwood Ridge, forming a large beast tide and rushing towards Arrow Bamboo Forest. By timing, it should have come at the beginning of May. But this year, indeed, it didn't happen. At the beginning of May, they were busy migrating a large population from Longyu, only realizing this after Yue Feng's reminder, including Xia Hong among the 9 of them. Luckily, the beast tide didn't occur this year, or the migration certainly wouldn't have proceeded so swiftly. Xia Hong had just been lost in thought, clearly considering the reason for the beast tide's disappearance. Everything has a cause. The beast tide that never failed to turn up every 4 months vanished abruptly this year. Linking it with the resurgence of the white goo this year, as Xia Hong did, isn't without basis. Yet all 8 remained silent, none daring to confirm Xia Hong's speculation. The reason is simple. There's no proof yet that the white goo is alive, just Yuan Dao's conjecture. If Xia Hong's speculation held true, it would indirectly confirm Yuan Dao's assumption that the white goo indeed hadn't died, and might be secretly controlling large numbers of cold beasts with ulterior motives. If that's truly the case, this would be a huge matter. Alright, I'm just confused. Instead of asking you all, it's better to personally take a look on the Yang Lu side. After Wushwang takes a break for 2 days, Peng Bo will lead the way to Yangyuan Peak to see what's really going on. Yes, sir. Peng Bo showed some excitement. Yangyuan Peak was his home for decades, and for nearly 2 months, he's constantly wanted to return and have a look. Someone's coming through the straight road. It's the army from Xia City. Let them through, let them through. It's the army heading to garrison Wushwang. Make way quickly. Make a path for the army. Suddenly, the crowd constructing the straight road not far from Snow Hill started to stir. Those who were originally clustered around the bonfire to work immediately gave way to the tunnel entrance. As the tunnel opening appeared, soldiers clad in light golden armor, wielding 100 forged horizontal blades, and equipped with strong bows and arrow quivers, briskly emerged from within. Is this the army from Xia City? Why are their armors all golden? Look at the great blades in their hands. They're all 100 forged great blades. Even the bows strapped on their backs are 100 forged level. Just the weight of this gear alone must be 20,000 pounds, and they're walking without a hint of breathlessness. This is the power of Great Xia truly so terrifying. Most involved in the construction of the straight road were Longyu captives. Only a small portion were craftsmen transferred from Great Xia. Upon seeing the Cloud Dragon army, the native craftsmen from Great Xia mostly showed pride on their faces, but the reaction among the Longyu captives was different. Having never been to Great Xia, seeing these soldiers elicited exclamations of astonishment. The captives constructing the road had only the cultivation level of the logging realm, utterly unable to discern the cultivation of the Cloud Dragon army soldiers, only able to guess through their burden. Raise the flag. Whoosh! After about 100 or so troops emerged, a loud shout suddenly echoed, and immediately an approximately 7 to 8 meter tall banner was raised in the front row of the formation, facing the cold wind. This banner was predominantly black, about 2 meters wide and 4 meters long, with a huge golden character, Xia, occupying almost the entire front side, while the reverse side was embroidered with a golden Tengjiao. The whistling cold wind made the banner flutter, making the Tengjiao seem as if it were soaring through the clouds, vividly lifelike. Speed up, Don't delay others from constructing the straight road quickly. Go. Isn't that Liu Yuan's voice leading them? You let him become the commander of the Cloud Dragon Army's reconnaissance camp. What about your Cloud Jiao team? On Snow Hill, upon seeing Liu Yuan as the commander, Xia Hong immediately asked Xia Chuan. This army formation almost depleted all intermediate hunting teams of their Earth-digging realm limit members, and the Cloud Jiao team was no exception. Initially, he thought Xia Chuan would keep Liu Yuan in the team, but unexpectedly, he had also brought him into the Cloud Dragon Army. There's no other way, no one else is available. Anyway, I brought the Cloud Jiao team to Wushuang too. Liu Yuan serves as my reconnaissance camp commander while also doubling as Cloud Jiao team's captain. After all, there's no conflict. As expected, the Cloud Dragon Army will be stationed long-term at Wushuang in the future, and bringing the Cloud Jiao team here indeed doesn't affect Liu Yuan holding dual positions, which is a loophole Xia Chuan managed to exploit. Chapter 672, Chapter 280, The Disappearing Beast Tide, Tenfold Marching Speed, Part 3. Xia Hong shook his head and chuckled softly, not caring, and continued to ask, how long did it take for the army to travel from Xia City to here in total? Upon hearing Xia Hong's question, the eyes of the 7 people around immediately focused on Xia Chuan, showing a hint of curiosity on their faces. Xia Chuan looked up at the sky and replied, 1 hour. 1 hour. Upon hearing this answer, all 8 people present, including Xia Hong, were invigorated, their faces showing slight excitement. From Xia City to Mirror Valley is 17 kilometers, Mirror Valley to Beehive is 24 kilometers. The distance from Beehive to here is about 8 kilometers, which means the fully armed Cloud Dragon Army, marching on the direct roads, has a marching speed of about 50 kilometers in 1 hour. Not only that, the Cloud Jiao Army has only been formed for a few days and hasn't undergone systematic training. This speed can still be increased further. Upon hearing Xia Hong's statistics, Xia Chuan quickly added with excitement in his voice. Hearing this, Xia Hong's heart trembled slightly. He had brought 8 people to guard this snow hill in advance, not to watch that group repair the direct roads, but to test the marching speed of the Cloud Jiao Army on the direct roads tonight, to see how fast they could be. 50 kilometers in 1 hour, that would be 600 kilometers, or 1,200 li, in 1 day. What does this mean? Xia Hong thought of something, and immediately asked Xia Chuan. Last time you told me that to attack Wushuang, you first transferred troops from Xia City to Beehive, and then gathered forces from Beehive to Wushuang. How long did the whole process take? I remember that we mobilized a total of 1,600 people, including 1,500 combat personnel. We set out on the night of April 26th. By the time we reached Beehive, it was almost dawn. After gathering the troops later, it was the early morning of April 27th, with only 1 hour left until dawn when we set out to attack Wushuang. Perhaps feeling that this was not very intuitive, Xia Chuan pondered for a moment and then provided another explanation. I remember clearly, at that time there were no direct roads from Mirror Valley to Beehive. Those 24 kilometers took 1,500 people 5 full hours to traverse. Based on this calculation, a regular army of 1,000 people would typically march about 5 kilometers in an hour. Marching on the direct roads, it's 50 kilometers in 1 hour. 10 times the marching speed. Gulp. The 7 people present heard this and couldn't help but swallow, then turned their heads to look at the Cloud Jiao Army, which had already entirely walked out of the direct road, their expressions suddenly shocked. Go back to notify the 6 ministries, temporarily mobilize all the prisoners from the camps here, and lay down the direct roads connecting all 3 Longyu points as quickly as possible. These direct roads may be our greatest weapon against Long Mountain and Zhejiang. Marching speed is 10 times the enemy's. What kind of concept is this? The phrase attack with lightning speed is not just words, especially in a world like Ice Abyss, where movement is incredibly difficult. The strategic significance of these direct roads is too important. After explaining, Xia Hong still felt it was not enough and further supplemented. Only using prisoners won't be enough. Involve the logging realm with contribution value from the camps, so the pace can be faster. In short, spare no effort to quickly lay down the direct roads connecting the 3 Longyu points. Yes, leader. Xia Hong calmed himself a bit, seeing that Liu Yuan was already leading the army toward Wushuang, then turned to Meng Yi and Lu Yang and said, You two should return to Beehive and Hankyang for garrison. If there are any unusual situations, send someone to Wushwang to report immediately. Yes, leader, we take our leave. Today is already June 9th, and the results of the garrison commander competition for the 3 Longyu points have been announced: Lin Kai, Lu Yang, and Meng Yi. This is also why he brought the 3 to Longyu. Meng Yi serves as Hankyang garrison commander, while Lu Yang is the Beehive garrison commander. The position of Wushwang is special, and the Cloud Dragon army must be stationed here. Xia Hong and Xia Chuan will stay here for a short time, making Lin Kai's role as Wushwang garrison commander temporarily meaningless. Alright, there are still 19 kilometers to go to Wushwang from here. The army will probably take another 4 hours to arrive. You should accompany the army there. I will go to Wushwang now. Farewell, leader. The remaining 6 people bowed and watched Xia Hong leave, then walked to the side of the Cloud Jiao army and continued marching towards the northwest Wushwang Giant Stone camp with the main force. Chapter 673, Chapter 281, Yang Li's Repression and Resentment. 48th year of Longyu, June 1st. On the snowy night of Long Mountain, the mountain body winds and spirals, the terrain undulates unpredictably. Coupled with the mountain's diverse plant species intertwining and growing, the visibility in the snow forest at night is extremely low, especially with large shadowy areas now and then. The overall perception is chaotic and disordered, unlike the orderly and structured Redwood Ridge. Cold beasts are creatures that come out during the day and rest at night, their habits exactly opposite to those of humans. They also need a sense of safety at night. Like the cold beasts in Redwood Ridge, they all crawl onto trees at night to rest. As such, compared to the orderly environment of Redwood Ridge, the chaotic and shadow-plagued Long Mountain is undoubtedly more favored by cold beasts. This is indeed the case. These cold beasts in Long Mountain seem unending. We now have over 400 hunting teams at the camp, yet in such a peripheral area, we unexpectedly encountered 2 striped tigers at once, almost capsizing in the gutter. Deep in a dense forest, 10 kilometers into Long Mountain, a young man in white held a large knife, standing on a corpse of a toothed fierce tiger with white skin and black spots. While applying balm to the claw marks on his chest, he couldn't help but lament to the tree. Bang, bangs, bang. As his words fell, 5 people jumped down from the tree one after another. The 5 were dressed similarly to him, of similar age, each holding strong bows and bearing weapons, clearly adorned like a hunting team. Among the 5, the leader wore black clothes, holding a rod over a meter long. He directly approached, squatted beside the striped tiger, pulled out the iron arrow stuck in the tiger corpse, and responded to the young man's lament. There haven't always been over 400 hunting teams. It's something that has developed in the camp over the recent few years. On the eastern edge of Long Mountain alone, the north-south length is 50 or 60 kilometers, and the width is over 30 kilometers. Considering the rugged and undulating terrain, the total area is at least over 2,000 square kilometers. With such a vast territory, the living cold beast population is astonishing. Moreover, there's a continuous supplement of cold beasts from the inner areas. Upon hearing the leading youth in black's words, everyone turned their heads towards the inner area of Long Mountain on the west side, revealing some yearning and curiosity. The young man in white remembered something and squatted down too, pulling out arrows while smiling towards the leading youth in black. Brother Zhang, once you and brother who break through to the earth-digging realm limit, can our team venture 20 kilometers in depth and attempt hunting intermediate cold beasts? The youth in black had just finished pulling out the iron arrow from the striped tiger, was first stunned upon hearing this question, then turned to observe the 5 people with a glance, saying nothing. Zhu Ping, stop dreaming. Our team consists of only 7 people. Even if Li Hu and Yang Zhang break through, hunting intermediate cold beasts won't work. Without a full team, there needs to be at least 20 people to even have a chance to try. In the team, a young man with an honest face spoke up, helping Yang Zhang answer Dong Ping's earlier question. The other 3 present showed a slight dimness upon hearing the young man's words. Yang Zhang, with his head bowed, had a flash of anger in his eyes, but he quickly concealed it. The young man in white, Dong Ping, immediately angrily rebuked him. Yang Yue, I asked Brother Zhang, who are you to interrupt? Li Hu and Yang Zhang are the leaders and co-leaders of their hunting team. Yang Yue, being a member of the team, showed no respect towards the 2. Zhu Ping, who always respected Li Yang, couldn't hold back naturally. Yet his angry rebuke did not make the other restrain himself. The master isn't anxious. What makes you a dog anxious? Upon hearing Yang Yue's ridicule, anger rose on Zhu Ping's face, but he quickly realized something. Once his expression calmed, he stared at Yang Yue and laughed instead. Ha ha. Only after laughing did Yang Yue feel somewhat uneasy, so Zhu Ping sarcastically said, "These wicked people love projecting themselves onto others, throwing dirty water on others. I never believed it before, but now I finally do. I admire the skills of our captain and brother Zhang, so I respect them. Any problem with that? Instead, it's you, Yang Yue, who have been known by everyone to wag your tail pleadingly to some people in the camp, ha ha ha." After hearing these words, Yang Yue's face turned beet red, especially noticing the inexplicable gazes from the other three in the team. He was furious and drew his longsword, charging towards Zhu Ping. "I'll kill you, mutt." Zhu Ping's basic strength matched Yang Yue's. Seeing him ready to strike, he was not willing to show weakness and instinctively prepared to draw his weapon. Bam! Seeing an internal team conflict about to erupt, Yang Zhang, the co-leader, naturally couldn't sit idly. He directly went forward and kicked Yang Yue away. Splatter! Yang Yue's basic strength was only 15,000, nearly double the difference with Yang Zhang. He was kicked more than 10 meters away, only got up from the snow after 5 or 6 breaths. After spitting out the blood surging from his throat, he looked at Yang Zhang. Though there was fear in his eyes, more was resentment. "Yang Zhang, dare you lay hands on me?" It's hard to imagine someone so much weaker could dare question him with such a threatening tone. Yang Zhang tightened his grip on the rod, forcibly suppressing the impulse to kill Yang Yue. After calming down for a long time, he looked at Yang Yue and said in a low voice, "Yang Gan and Li Yuanqing sent you to join the team probably to monitor me and brother Hu, not to ruin my hunting team. Believe it or not, even if I disable you here, they won't do anything to me. At most, they'll just find another dog to watch us." Chapter 674, Chapter 281, Yang Li's Repression and Resentment, Part 2. Hearing the chill in Yang Zhang's voice, Yang Yue shivered slightly, stood in place with a face of uncertainty for a long time, and finally put away his large knife. "We've harvested enough tonight. Pack up the prey and prepare to return. The captain's injury should be more or less healed. Go find him." Yang Zhang put away his iron rod, gave the order, and led the group back to the east side. Yang Yue sneered as he waited for Zhu Ping and the other three to carry the prey, then followed the four as they set out. Yang Zhang turned his head to see Yang Yue's unyielding attitude, and his anger grew, but after pondering for a moment, he eventually held it in and sighed lightly. The recent threat to Yang Yue was merely a moment of anger. If he dared to cripple Yang Yue, it wouldn't require Li Yuanqing and Yang Gan to act. The camp's rules alone would be enough to send him to spend the rest of his life in a dark, dayless mine. Killing Yang Yue would be simpler, especially since they belonged to the same hunting team, regularly going into Long Mountain to hunt cold beasts. Such opportunities were aplenty. The problem is, they've done this kind of thing before. Before Yang Yue, the one sent by Yang Gan and Li Yuanqing to surveil them was called Liu Ming. After Liu Ming was sidelined by him and Li Hu, they sent Yang Yue. That's the crux of the matter. Killing people doesn't solve anything. Li Yuanqing and Yang Gan clearly intend to keep someone watching him and Li Hu at all times. Setting up to kill one's team member once found out by the camp would be a capital offense. Rather than take such a high risk, it's better to keep this fool. That's why he and Li Hu tolerated Yang Yue staying in the hunting team. This matter he, Li Hu, Zhu Ping, the other three team members including Yang Yue himself were all tacitly aware. Previously, Yang Yue was decent, never really crossing any boundaries. Only recently, it seems Yang Yue is keeping a tighter watch on him and Li Hu, and his attitude has noticeably become less polite. Unexpectedly, it's probably because my and Li Hu's cultivation has grown too quickly, arousing their vigilance, which is why Yang Yue is watching us so closely. Walking ahead, Yang Zhang sensed Yang Yue's gaze behind him. His eyes flashed with seriousness as he continued to quicken his pace towards the east side. Using the marks previously left on trees, Yang Zhang led the group outward about 4 or 5 kilometers, soon arriving near a conspicuous large tree. "Here they are." A voice sounded from the tree, followed by a figure leaping down. If it wasn't their captain Li Hu, who else could it be? Li Hu's right arm was wrapped with cloth strips, stained with quite a bit of blood. "Captain, is your injury healed?" Hearing Zhu Ping's inquiry, Li Hu smiled and raised the large knife with his right hand. The movement only slightly altered, indicating his injury was more or less healed. It's nothing big now, let's head back. Li Hu gestured for everyone to continue their return journey, then exchanged a subtle glance with Yang Zhang. Seeing Yang Zhang curl his lips, he immediately shot a look at Yang Yue. The two brothers had great tacit understanding. Even without words, Li Hu knew Yang Zhang meant Yang Yue had caused trouble again. However, he said nothing. His mouth barely curled into a cold smile, then walked up to Yang Zhang's side and patted his shoulder. With his shoulder patted, Yang Zhang's pupils shrank rapidly. His body shook suddenly. Then he looked up at Li Hu with disbelief in his eyes. Tonight we have two prey, pretty good haul, let's go. Li Hu signaled everyone to set out, and immediately walked ahead with Yang Zhang. The two walked side by side, distancing themselves over 100 meters from those behind them, until Yang Zhang couldn't hold back his excitement, whispering, "Hu Zai, did you already break through?" Li Hu's face was full of smiles, nodding invigoratedly, and whispered, "The beast spirit pill given by the minister is just too effective. It's been only 20 days since the 10th, and after consuming a total of 10 pills, I've broken through, not only surpassing the earth-digging realm limit, I've just started using beast blood to reshape my skin. Not only surpassing the earth-digging realm limit, but also starting to use beast blood." Joy instantly filled Yang Zhang's face, not solely for Li Hu's breakthrough, but also for himself, because tomorrow night during the hunt, it would be his turn to feign injury and stay behind to go to the old spot where they stash their supplies and take the beast spirit pill for cultivation. My progress is similar to Hu Zai's. Maybe I can break through tomorrow night. As Yang Zhang felt excited, he recalled Yang Yue behind him and couldn't help but whisper a reminder to Li Hu. Yang Yue's been keeping an increasingly close watch lately. It's likely because our cultivation progress was noticed by the two at the camp. Upon hearing Yang Zhang's reminder, Li Hu's expression froze momentarily, then turned back to glance at Yang Yue behind them, a glint of chill flashing in his eyes. "No worries, I've already broken through and you're close. Maintaining this routine, breaking through to cold resistance level is only a matter of time. Once breakthrough occurs, advancing to the council elders won't be an issue. Moreover, after advancing to the council elders, they can rightfully participate in Long Mountain affairs, further providing valuable intelligence for Great Xia." Although Li Hu didn't finish speaking, the tacit understanding built over long-term collaboration was enough for Yang Zhang to grasp his deeper meaning. Yang Zhang nodded and continued walking side by side with Li Hu. Both were holding back their emotions, causing their strides to become heavier. Ridiculous to say, the beast blood, Dan medicine, and salt given by Xia Chuan earlier, they not only didn't dare to take back but feared even hiding at the camp. They had to hide them on the long mountainside to feel secure. Depositing them was such, using them was even more troublesome. It was essential to wait until hunting outings, feign injury, separate from the team before consuming them secretly. Chapter 675, Chapter 281, Yang Li's Suppressed Anger and Hatred Part 3. There was no other way. Li Yuanqing and Yang Gan's surveillance and suppression of them had practically reached a perverse level. It could be seen from the number of people in the hunting team. If it were an ordinary hunting team with 2 members about to break through the earth-digging realm limit, other earth-digging realm members would be vying to join. But this hunting team, because of Li Yuanqing and Yang Gan's suppression, only recruited 5 people, with Yang Yue being one of them sent by the two. Thinking about the reason Li Yuanqing suppressed him, Li Hu found it both hateful and laughable. Li Yuanqing was actually afraid that he would perform too well, overshadowing him, thereby gaining Li Xuanqiang's attention, which might eventually lead to Li Tianqiang's notice. Honestly, the person Li Hu hated from the beginning to the end was only one, Zhu Ru, who forced his mother to death. Not to mention Li Yuanqing, but even towards Li Xuanqiang, his father, he felt nothing, let alone Li Tianqiang and other people from Long Mountain. Yet Li Yuanqing seemed to be crazed. From the moment he started cultivation, he desperately suppressed him, fearing that his cultivation speed would be slightly faster. Coincidentally, similar was Yang Gan, his half-brother. He was no different. The narrow-mindedness of these two was unfathomable to Li Hu and Yang Zhang at times. But the reality was like this. The two of them had no choice but to find a way to cope with it. Fortunately, things are different now. We are already people of Great Xia. With the resources given by Minister, breaking through the cold resistance level is a matter of time, and avenging is no longer an issue. Moreover, if we can help Great Xia defeat Long Mountain in the future, both Yang Zhang and I will have limitless prospects. Li Hu pondered silently as he soon walked out of Long Mountain and arrived at the camp. The resource management in Long Mountain was extremely strict. They had to first submit their prey to the camp warehouse before they could take away their share. If they wanted to exchange for other resources later, they would have to use their own share to trade. The ratio was 70 to 30, meaning for prey yielding 1,000 pounds of meat, they could take away 300 pounds. For a single person, it's a lot, but when divided among 7 people, each would only get about 40 pounds. Tonight's prey included 2 animals. Both he and Yang Zhang managed to each get over 100 pounds, which was already considered a good harvest. Of course, that was before. Ever since they've tasted Great Xia salt and Dan medicine, Yang Zhang was no longer interested in ordinary beast meat. Needless to say for Li Hu, who just broke through the earth-digging realm limit tonight, his mind was set on the beast blood hidden in Long Mountain, uninterested in the beast meat. Let's head back, leave the beast meat there. After some time, we'll trade it for a set of clothes. No point, I'll keep mine too, and when we gather enough, trade them for some healing medicine. After leaving the warehouse, the two headed straight for home. Both had decent cultivation, and each had their own housing in the camp, conveniently located next to each other. Exiting the central area of the camp, they soon reached the outskirts near their homes, where they usually wore smiling faces seeing their houses. Today, things were clearly different. More than 100 meters away from their homes, both their expressions concurrently darkened. Their homes had been intruded upon by many people, with their personal belongings scattered at the doorstep, and some were rummaging through their things inside, obviously searching for something. Chapter 676, Chapter 282, Humiliation and the Formation of a New Army. Stop! The two hurried towards the house, and when they were still over 10 meters away, Yang Zhang, with his hot temper, directly yelled angrily at those people. Oh, the young masters have returned from hunting. Today's return is a bit early. There's still over 2 hours until dawn. Why is the third young master so irritable? We're just taking a casual look. The sarcastic remarks at the door made Yang Zhang's already high temper flare up even more, his hands gripping the stick trembling nonstop. Hearing the final address of third young master, he couldn't hold back any longer and directly charged at the man, ready to strike. The man's strength was obviously not strong. Seeing Yang Zhang rushing towards him, he was immediately scared and took a few steps back. Fighting among fellow members within the camp, once verified, regardless of the reason, the minimum punishment is a month's labor in the mine. Causing serious consequences could result in a lifetime of servitude in the mine. Li Hu, who knew the camp's rules well, naturally couldn't allow Yang Zhang to strike, so he quickly reached out to stop him, then gave Yang Zhang a look. Yang Zhang was not foolish. Seeing Li Hu's look, he instantly calmed down, stood still, took a deep breath, then stared at the man who had retreated a few steps, showing a hint of disdain. The man obviously couldn't save face. Realizing now that the two didn't dare to act, he continued to mock Yang Zhang, saying, "Third young master, you've indeed improved a lot lately, daring to make a move in the camp now. You barged in for no reason. What's the point of talking to this pack of dogs? Just find their master." Yang Zhang hadn't finished speaking when he was interrupted by Li Hu. Hearing Li Hu's words, the dozen or so people around the house immediately showed anger on their faces, just about to retort, when from Li Hu's room on the left came a very calm voice. "Old 4, come in. Old 3, you get in here right now too." If the first voice was calm, showing no trace of its owner's emotions, the next arrogant and domineering shout was completely the opposite, filled with ferocity and brutality, clearly showing a deep disdain for this old 3 mentioned. Upon hearing the two voices from inside the house, Li Hu and Yang Zhang's expressions immediately turned dark, but they quickly regained their composure and walked inside. Inside the room were 13 people in total, 8 dressed as subordinates, rummaging around. The remaining 5 were about the same age as Li Hu, and were dressed considerably more luxuriously than the 9, standing in the center of the room, scrutinizing Li Hu and Yang Zhang as they slowly walked in. The moment Li Hu and Yang Zhang walked in, the 5 people clearly noticed something. Their expressions slightly changed. The man in the center, staring hard at Li Hu, said in a low voice, Old 4, I haven't seen you for half a month, and you've already broken through to the earth-digging realm limit. Is there something you're not telling me? What's up, Li Wuking? You're allowed to cultivate, but I'm not allowed to break through. It was no surprise that Li Hu's cultivation was seen through by Li Wuking in a glance. After all, the other party had broken through the earth-digging realm limit 2 years ago and started using beast blood. Li Wuking was quite surprised, clearly never having seen Li Hu so defiant, stared down at him for a moment, then seemingly thinking of something, chuckled lightly. Li Hu, you probably think that breaking through the earth-digging realm limit means you can join the Long Yu army, and when you're not in the hunting team, I won't be able to manage you right. Li Hu sneered, considering it a response to Li Yuanqing. The reason Li Yuanqing could recklessly plant people into his hunting team was because his grandfather Zhu Xing managed all the ordinary hunting teams in Long Mountain. As Li Yuanqing said, he had just broken through the earth-digging realm limit and would soon be able to join the Long Yu army, at which point he would no longer be in the hunting team. Not even Zhu Xing could control him then, let alone Li Yuanqing. The Long Yu army is the strongest weapon in Long Mountain's hand, extremely strictly managed, and its affairs can only be meddled in by the leader and a few others like Li Tiancheng, and Zhu Xing has no chance. He had been risking his life to expedite his breakthrough, just so he could enter the army sooner and rid himself of the surveillance of Li Yuanqing and Yang Gan. Of course, the more important objective is to infiltrate the great Xia to steal. As thoughts swirled in Li Hu's mind, a fist wind suddenly came crashing towards him. Li Yuanqing had often laid hands on him before, and Li Hu's response was quick. A ruthless glint flashed in his eyes as he swiftly drew a broadsword to counter. Fighting was forbidden within Long Mountain Camp, but since the opponent struck first, he had nothing to fear. He knew his capability was certainly inferior to Li Yuanqing, given that the latter had broken through 2 years prior, so he directly drew his broadsword to respond. Breaking through 2 years ago, the basic strength at most is over 10,000 more than mine, thinking he can just defeat me with fists. Bang! Li Hu's thoughts were abruptly interrupted by a straight punch from Li Yuanqing. Crack! The other's fist landed squarely on his broadsword. The terrifying force transmitted up his arm, causing bones to crack audibly, and Li Hu's face changed instantly. The broadsword slipped from his grip, and he flew backward over 10 meters, smashing through a wall behind, embedding his body half a meter into the ground. Pachu! Brother Hu! Nearby, Yang Zhang was stupefied for a few seconds. Upon regaining his senses, he looked panic-stricken and immediately tried to help Li Hu up, but barely took 2 steps when Yang Gan, beside Li Yuanqing, kicked him flying. Old 3, did Big Brother tell you to move? After kicking Yang Zhang away, Yang Gan aggressively rushed forward and stomped fiercely on Yang Zhang's left face, crushing his head into the ground by more than 10 centimeters, leaving only the left eye exposed. Chapter 677, Chapter 282, Humiliation and the Formation of a New Army, Part 2. Old Third, you've recently improved your basic strength quite a bit. Be honest with Big Brother, how did you, Li Hu, manage to do it? Yang Zhang, with a temperament even fiercer than Li Hu, was furious at such humiliation. Even knowing he wasn't as strong as the other party, he roared in anger, Yang Gan, if you have the guts, kill me. As long as I'm alive, there will be a day when I kill you. It wasn't the first time hearing Yang Zhang utter such words. A flash of murderous intent crossed Yang Gan's eyes, but he quickly restrained himself, sneering. A waste who hasn't broken the 30,000 jin limit by the age of 22. If it weren't for the camp rules, you would have been dead countless times by now. Even with another 10 years, you will only be beneath my feet, understand, you waste. Bang! Waste you the waste. Yang Gan's temper was extremely volatile, and probably feeling unsatisfied, he cursed waste, while ruthlessly stepping on various parts of Yang Zhang's body. Yet it could be seen that Yang Gan didn't really intend to kill. Otherwise, with the kick that just sent Yang Zhang flying, if he'd used his full strength, Yang Zhang wouldn't have survived. Not killing, but the humiliation reached the extreme. If you have the guts, kill me, kill me. You bastard, kill me, kill me. Beast, I will definitely kill you, kill your mother. Yang Zhang, with his head buried in the ground, continued to roar, refusing to yield even in pain, seemingly provoking Yang Gan on purpose, eventually voicing what's deep in his heart. Hearing the threat to kill his mother, Yang Gan genuinely got angry, a murderous gleam in his eye, and he lifted his foot high, clearly intending to deliver a fatal blow. Li Yuanqing, you've broken through to cold resistance level already. But at this moment, Li Hu from the other side suddenly spoke. This inquiry seemed to provoke something in Yang Gan, who recalled something, and although the foot went down, he retracted 70 to 80% of his strength. Yang Zhang's roars also stopped, turning to look at Li Yuanqing, his lying body slightly shivered, a trace of despair flashing on his face. Evidently, Li Hu's question just now was due to taking Li Yuanqing's punch, sensing Li Yuanqing's strength. 2 years ago, Li Yuanqing already broke through the earth-digging realm limit and started using beast blood to reshape his skin. Li Hu's question implied something obvious. You've got some insight. Li Yuanqing's voice was full of pride as he slowly walked up to Li Hu, using his foot to kick him out of the ground, then squatting in front of him to continue. Li Hu, you and Yang Zhang have been cultivating unusually fast recently. You must have hidden something. If you're wise, tell me quickly, otherwise, if I really use some means, you and Yang Zhang won't even have the chance to hunt in Long Mountain in the future, believe it. Seeing Li Hu remain silent, he seemed to recall something, a cold gleam flashing in his eyes as he said, Right, you've broken through the earth-digging realm limit and so has Yang Zhang. Next, you need beast blood. Yang Gan immediately picked up on Li Yuanqing's words, mocking, 2 little wildlings dreaming of exchanging beast blood. Lying on the ground, Li Hu and Yang Zhang's expressions darkened significantly upon hearing Yang Gan's words. Yang Gan's father, Yang Fengping, not only the strongest divine archer of the camp, but also in charge of all elite hunting teams in Long Mountain, and the beast blood bank was managed by his mother, Li Xuanqiu. Li Xuanqiu, who was the enemy that killed Yang Zhang's mother, naturally wouldn't allow them to exchange beast blood like other normal earth-digging realm limits. So Yang Gan was right. Their desire to exchange for beast blood was indeed a dream. How about this? As long as you tell me the secret to speeding up cultivation, in the future, I won't stop you from going to the warehouse to exchange beast blood. How about that? Li Yuanqing pretended to deliberate and offered conditions, also giving Yang Gan a glance, clearly signaling him to cooperate. Yang Gan immediately responded, a flicker in his eyes as he said, Exactly, old third, we are still family after all. As long as you tell me the secret, I won't trouble you anymore. How about that? He. Li Hu and Yang Zhang couldn't help but smirk inwardly. Growing up under Zhu Ru and Li Xuanqiu's noses, how could they be easily deceived? Of course, they wouldn't be fooled by Li Yuanqing and Yang Gan's petty tricks. The two remained silent, and the atmosphere suddenly turned cold. Li Yuanqing and Yang Gan waited for a long time without a response. Realizing that their tricks had been seen through by the two, their faces turned to anger. Fine, if you're not going to talk, then don't. Anyway, you two wastes have never been in my eyes, but... Li Yuanqing's tone gradually grew sinister, continuing, If you thought joining the Longyu army would solve everything, you'd be dead wrong. Last night, the camp council decided to establish a new Longyu army. I've already been appointed as one of the 2 commanding officers of the new army. Even if you join the new army, you won't escape my grasp. Yang Gan couldn't help but speak now, grinning at Yang Zhang on the ground. I'm also close to breaking through. You won't escape my grasp either. Upon hearing this, Li Hu and Yang Zhang's expressions turned grim. Today is the 1st of June, and yesterday was the last day of May, indeed the monthly meeting day of Long Mountain. Li Yuanqing likely wasn't lying. The Longyu army, 1,000 to form an army, establishing a new army, means that future earth-digging realm limits will all be incorporated into the new army. Chapter 678, Chapter 282, Humiliation and the Formation of the New Army, Part 3. The structure of the Longyu army is 1 capital commandant and 4 colonels. The capital commandant commands the entire army. The 2 commanding captains, each leading a group of 500 men, are responsible for the actual command. Each group is then assigned a commanding officer, who controls military discipline and battlefield discipline, including post-battle merit evaluations and rewards. When they break through the earth-digging realm limit at this time, they will inevitably be assigned to the new army. With only 2 groups of 500 men, it is not difficult for Li Yuanqing to clandestinely arrange for the 2 of them to be incorporated under his command. Therefore, escaping from his grasp is truly not just an empty statement. I'll give you one last chance to tell me the secret of your accelerated cultivation progress. Li Yuanqing asked again, Unwilling to give up but seeing Li Hu and Yang Zhang remain silent, he finally lost patience and with anger turning into laughter said, "Fine, fine, refuse the toast and take the penalty wine. In that case, I will ensure you don't have a single chance to hunt every night. Without the income from beast meat, I want to see how you will exchange for beast blood and continue to break through." As soon as Li Yuanqing finished speaking, he turned around and left with Yang Gan. The others followed the two of them out. Inside the house, the two people lying on the ground remained motionless for a long time. Only from the increasingly heavy breathing could it be sensed that their hearts were evidently not calm. After a long while, the less injured Li Hu stood up first. Seeing the mess in the house, although his heart was full of rage, he still calmed down and went over to Yang Zhang, helping him up. "Hu Zai, maybe we should first go to Great Xia and—" "Don't be foolish, I know what you want to say." Li Hu interrupted Yang Zhang directly, quietly picking up the things from the ground. His tone became unusually calm as he continued. "If we go to Great Xia now, we are nothing more than two homeless dogs. Not only would we let down the minister who provided us with those cultivation materials, but it would also be difficult for us to make a name there in the future." After finishing, he paused for a moment and continued, "This humiliation is more severe than before. Perhaps our increasing cultivation speed recently has made them apprehensive. It's a good thing. There's no need to be discouraged." Yang Zhang's expression slightly solidified, still looking somewhat hesitant. "But if we actually join that new army, Li Yuanqing?" "Li Yuanqing is that capable. If he were so strong, he wouldn't just be a commanding officer. He merely uses his authority to withhold our cultivation materials when evaluating and rewarding merits, but we are different." Li Hu paused here, then looked up with eyes full of hatred and continued solemnly, "Once we're in the new army, we can reach the higher echelons of the camp and know all the movements of the Longyu army. You tell me, is such information important to Great Xia and the minister?" Yang Zhang's expression solidified, his eyes immediately lighting up. "From what I know, the current number of earth-digging realm limits in the camp is insufficient. The resources for establishing a new army are extremely vast, and Long Mountain would not form a new army for no reason. It is most likely that there are movements in the camp, and we must quickly relay this information to the minister." Hearing Li Hu's words, Yang Zhang nodded immediately but soon looked troubled. "They've been watching too closely lately, even within the station. We have no opportunity to go out alone, so how can we send the message? We'll need to develop a reliable new person, one who's unnoticed by Li Yuanqing and Yang Gan, to help us send the message." Zhu Ping. In an almost instant, this name appeared in Yang Zhang's mind. Chapter 679, Chapter 283, Breakthrough New Army High-Intensity Training. The 48th year of Longyu, 4th day of June. Shortly after nightfall, about 5 kilometers deep into Long Mountain. Bang! A blue thorny wolf, riddled with iron arrows, collapsed to the ground. Li Hu with 5 others including Zhu Ping leaped down from the tree, faces full of excitement. "Tonight went smoothly. We just came out and already hunted a thorny wolf." Hearing Zhu Ping's exclamation, Li Hu smiled without speaking, quickly walking to the thorny wolf's side and asked, "Ah Zhang, are you hurt?" "Cough, cough, I should be fine." A coughing sound came from under the thorny wolf's corpse. Zhu Ping quickly lifted the wolf's body, and Li Hu timely stepped forward to help Yang Zhang up. It was only then that everyone noticed Yang Zhang's left leg was bleeding. "Zhang bro, you're hurt again." Hearing Zhu Ping's words, Li Hu, without another word, tore a piece of cloth to bandage the bleeding spot on Yang Zhang's left leg, eyelashes slightly twitching, and he asked quietly, "How is it, can we continue?" "It's an old injury from 2 days ago that reopened, nothing serious, I can continue." Noticing the weakness in Yang Zhang's voice, Zhu Ping was full of worry and said, "If I had known, we should have rested for a night. The wound reopened last night, and again tonight at this rate, it might never heal." "It's okay, no worries about me, let's go keep moving." Yang Zhang forced himself to stand up but walked with a noticeable limp. Li Hu frowned and said directly, "That's enough, I can't let you continue just like last night, you stay here and rest. The 6 of us will go in and find you after the hunt." This. Seeing Yang Zhang's troubled expression, Zhu Ping immediately added, "The captain is right, Zhang bro, you can't push yourself any further. If the leg injury leaves a persistent problem, it will be a big issue in the future. Like the past 2 days, stay here to heal, and we'll find you after the hunt." The other 3 in the team said nothing. Yang Yue twitched the corner of his mouth, seemingly wanting to mock a bit, but seeing Yang Zhang's bloody left leg held back. "All right, I'll watch over the prey here, you guys go on." Yang Zhang was finally persuaded and nodded. Everyone helped Yang Zhang hang the prey on the tree branches, then cleared a space for him on the tree and continued to move deeper. Before leaving, Li Hu exchanged a subtle glance with Yang Zhang. Once everyone went far, Yang Zhang immediately stood up, ripped off the cloth tied around his left leg, and a sharp glint appeared in his eyes. His left leg had no injury at all, just a small cut, and the amount of blood flowing out wasn't as terrifying as it looked. He jumped down from the tree and began exploring in the snow forest, his legs moving freely without the slightest sign of injury. In no time, he reached a slope, felt around for a while, and skillfully found the entrance to a small cave. Yang Zhang was very cautious, not entering the cave directly, but first looking around to make sure no one was following before walking in, and as soon as he was inside, he used wood to seal the cave entrance. Sizzle! Inside the cave, Yang Zhang lit a small campfire, then went to the depths of the cave and soon took out an iron pot, 5 pieces of reddish beast meat, a jar, and a porcelain bottle. "When can I cultivate without being so sneaky? It's the 3rd day now. If I can't break through soon, there'll be no time left." Yang Zhang began boiling the meat and quickly swallowed a beast spirit pill and started cultivating. This cave was the stash site for him and Li Hu's materials. The injury was just a ruse he and Li Hu staged, to get away from Yang Yue's watchful eyes and cultivate in peace. The vigilance from Li Yuanqing and Yang Gan was far too tight. Since returning from the Great Xia, he and Li Hu had been using this method to secretly use the cultivation materials given by Xia Chuan. Initially, the two would alternate every 1 or 2 days, but the provocation from Li Yuanqing and Yang Gan 3 days ago made them feel pressured, and with Li Hu already breaching the earth-digging realm limit, he gave the cultivation opportunities to Yang Zhang for the past 3 days. Only 200 more pounds to go, with 1 more beast spirit pill, and 10 pounds of intermediate beast meat cooked with refined salt. Breaking through tonight should not be a problem. Once the beast meat was cooked, Yang Zhang began stuffing it into his mouth, utilizing the auxiliary effect of the beast spirit pill. The energy within the beast meat rapidly dispersed throughout his body. He quickly started punching to release energy, increasing strength and muscle density. With the medicinal power assisting, steam rose from his body continuously, and each punch was stronger than the last, his physique clearly strengthening rapidly. This cultivation speed, 5 to 6 times faster than usual, though not new to him, still amazed Yang Zhang as he felt his rapidly increasing basic strength at that moment. The beast essence pill from earlier was already powerful, but this beast spirit pill is at least 10 times more effective than Long Mountain's power concentration powder. And the refined salt, it not only makes the beast meat delicious, but also aids in absorbing the meat's energy. If the Great Xia can provide such divine items with ease, their strength is extraordinary. Who knows what even more miraculous things might be in their base. Even Long Mountain had items that could accelerate cultivation speed, but compared to what the Great Xia offered, they were worthless. I and Hu Zai haven't even broken through yet, and the minister was willing to give out 200 pounds of beast blood, so many spirit pills and refined salt. Just imagine what it would be after we break through. If we can provide more valuable intelligence to the Great Xia, Hu Zai and I will have no shortage of cultivation resources. Chapter 680, Chapter 283, Breakthrough New Army High-Intensity Training Part 2. In Yang Zhang's eyes, there was a longing for Great Xia. To be precise, it was a longing for these mighty cultivation resources. Due to his background, he and Li Hu never received fair treatment in Long Mountain, and instead were humiliated for years by Li Yuanqing and Yang Gan. Naturally, there was no loyalty to speak of. On the contrary, even though Great Xia was unfamiliar to them, it had saved their lives twice and wasn't stingy with huge expenditures on them. So, even though they knew they were being used, Yang Zhang and Li Hu found it worthwhile. The new army has been formed for 2 days now, and there are not many slots left. We must break through tonight, and Li Yuanqing has already started meddling with the hunting team. Those 3 should be leaving soon, and only Hu Zai, Zhu Ping, and I will be left without the qualification to hunt in the mountains. That day, Li Yuanqing indeed didn't lie to them. The next day, on the 2nd day of the month, the camp issued regulations for forming a new army. Although it had only been 2 days until today, there were already over 800 people, leaving only the last 100 slots. Li Hu broke through to the earth-digging realm limit 3 days ago, and has yet to apply to join because he's waiting for him to break through together. Joining the new army is partly to gather more information about the higher-ups of Long Mountain and the specific movements of the Long Yu army, to relay more useful intelligence to Great Xia. It is also to deal with the targeting from Li Yuanqing and Yang Gan. Li Yuanqing sent someone the day before yesterday to recruit the other 3 from their team, and Yang Zhang didn't even need to ask to know the purpose. The Longshan camp has a rule that an ordinary hunting team must have at least 5 people, and an elite hunting team must have at least 10 people to enter the mountain for hunting normally. Of course, if the number is insufficient, you can prove your strength instead. However, proving strength is also something Li Yuanqing can meddle with. The original intent of this rule was to ensure the safety of hunting, which is not bad at all, but now it has become a tool for Li Yuanqing to use against them, which is ridiculously ironic. Li Yuanqing sent someone to recruit the 3 team members, whose only task was to leave the hunting team, preventing them from hunting in the mountains normally, thereby cutting off their source of beast meat by indirect means. Beast meat is considered a basic equivalent for all major camps, and Long Mountain is no exception. If the income from beast meat decreases, all other cultivation resources naturally fall behind. So Li Yuanqing's tactic indeed hit them right where it hurts. As long as we enter the new army, it'll be fine. The army has a stable allocation of beast blood, and Li Yuanqing, a mere commanding officer, wouldn't dare meddle in this regard. While mulling over the plan, Yang Zhang had already devoured all the beast meat in the pot, with his speed of punches speeding up, and the blood energy around him becoming more intense. When the blood energy reached its peak, his body seemed to reach a critical point. Letting out a muffled groan, he retracted his fists and gathered strength. SLZZZ. His skin suddenly tightened, emitting a faint sound, and then the blood energy enveloping him seeped back inside through his pores. At that moment, he suddenly opened his eyes, punching the stone wall on one side of the cave with a blast. Bang! The mountain wall shattered violently, his fist penetrating more than 10 centimeters into the rock. I've broken through. Yang Zhang withdrew his fist, feeling the basic strength of 30,000 pounds and the toughness after his skin tightened, his face full of excitement and emotion. After standing still for a while, he moved inside the cave, opened a leather bag, and looked at the bright red beast blood inside, a flash of eagerness in his eyes. But soon he suppressed his emotions. The minister only gave us 250 pounds in total. Instead of splitting it between the 2 of us, it's better to give it all to Hu Zai to fully support his breakthrough to cold resistance level. Li Yuanqing has already broken through, and Yang Gan is about to. If neither of us can break through, we wouldn't stand a chance against those 2. Having made up his mind, Yang Zhang put away all the materials, extinguished the bonfire, restored the cave entrance to its original state, and went to wait by the big tree where they entered, quietly awaiting the return of Li Hu and others. Zhang were here. It wasn't until the middle of the night that Li Hu finally returned with several people. Seeing Yang Zhang jump down from the tree, Li Hu could obviously feel something. His expression slightly brightened, but he said nothing, merely urged everyone to take their prey and head back to the outpost swiftly. As soon as Yang Zhang returned to the outpost, Li Hu took him to report to the military camp. Having reached the earth-digging realm limit entitled them both to join the new army, so there was no issue, and they were directly assigned to the new army's 2nd Regiment. As expected, the commanding officer of the 2nd Regiment was Li Yuanqing. Moreover, they were assigned to Yang Gan's squad. The Long Yu army has 500 men per regiment and 100 men per squad. With Yang Gan's cultivation, it's natural for him to be a squad leader, but it's suspicious how they coincidentally ended up in his squad. Yet Li Hu and Yang Zhang said nothing about it, neither did they complain to the commanding Captain Cheng He, choosing instead to accept this arrangement silently. If Li Yuanqing and Yang Gan want to give us a hard time, let them. Staying in the new army is our most important task. Be sure to keep things calm during tomorrow's formal military training camp. After returning from the military camp, Li Hu advised Yang Zhang. Yang Zhang had a slightly bigger temper and was easily provoked. If during the new military training, Li Yuanqing caught hold of any mistake, being expelled from the army would be a minor issue, but violating military orders could have severe consequences, so he had to speak more. Yang Zhang listened to his advice, nodded, and said in a deep voice, "I understand. It's just tolerating it. We've tolerated for over 10 years, this isn't much." Only then did Li Hu feel relieved, as they practiced martial arts together in the courtyard. Yet what unfolded next was clearly beyond their expectations. On the 5th of June, after entering the new army for training, Li Yuanqing and Yang Gan surprisingly didn't cause any trouble. Although Li Yang and the others had military duties, they also had to participate in training, so Li Hu and Yang Zhang could face them. Judging by the looks in their eyes, it was clear that Li Yuanqing still wanted to cause trouble, but for some reason, he never actually did. This Longyu army is indeed remarkable. After pondering for a long time, Li Hu and Yang Zhang could not come up with any reason, ultimately attributing it to the stringent military regulations. But soon, they vaguely began to understand. The intensity of the new army training was exceptionally rigorous. Training in spear coordination at the camp was already something, and once the 2nd Regiment reached full capacity, they were taken to Long Mountain that very night to hunt cold beasts together. Every night thereafter, the first half was spent practicing with spears, and the second half was engaged in actual combat in Long Mountain, leaving virtually no time to rest. Commanding Captain Cheng He was constantly observing from above, and even the new army captain Zhou Yuan was present, either patrolling or directing. Under such high intensity and high standard training, Li Yuanqing and Yang Gan were exhausted each day, not to mention lacking the opportunity. They likely lacked the inclination to cause them trouble. With such intensive training as I expected, the camp must be preparing for something major. Otherwise, it wouldn't be like this. On the 10th of June at dawn, everyone in the camp was deep in dreams. Lying in bed, Li Hu spoke softly to Yang Zhang beside him. "But we haven't heard any news, and the other 3 Longyu army units also show no signs of action, following the same schedule as us in the camp every day." Hearing Yang Zhang's words, a gleam shone in Li Hu's eyes. He said, "Being in the camp every day is the signal. The other 3 Longyu army units don't even need training. Under normal circumstances, they should be out hunting or busy with other matters, but during this period they've stayed in camp, clearly preparing for something." He paused for a moment before continuing, "It should be soon." As if to confirm his words, there was suddenly the sound of clattering metal from outside the camp, easily identifiable as the collision of a large number of iron objects. "Get everything ready, it needs to be sent over after nightfall, no mistakes. Move them over here, 10 boxes per squad, don't mix them up. Move them over here quick." Hearing the commotion outside the camp, Li Hu and Yang Zhang exchanged a glance, a simultaneous gleam appearing in their eyes. Chapter 681, Chapter 284, Astonishing Training Results. The Peepers. 2nd Year of Great Xia, June 25. Snowy night west of Wushuang, within a branch of Long Mountain. Boom! About 7 or 8 kilometers deep, right in the center of 3 large trees, a large bonfire suddenly ignited, rising 5 to 6 meters high. The moment the bonfire was lit, the snow forest seemed to awaken instantly. The surrounding area of several kilometers began to echo with subtle and eerie sounds. Crack! It started with the sound of ice falling from the trees. Huff, huff, huff. Then came the light, rhythmic panting of dozens, even up to 100 cold beasts. If observed closely, one would notice that with the bonfire as the center, within the darkness-cloaked snow forest, numerous pairs of eyes suddenly lit up. Those were clearly cold beasts that had been woken from their slumber. All their gazes turned towards the bonfire, their originally sleepy eyes suddenly sharpening, turning blood-red as if driven by extreme excitement. Roar! Uncertain which cold beast it was, its patience seemingly worn thin, it was the first to unleash an angry roar and charge towards the bonfire. One after another, the roars of the cold beasts followed. Those resting in the trees all leapt down, charging towards the bonfire. Packs of blue-furred wolves, fast as lightning, were instantly upon them. Several black snow manes charged forward side by side, with unstoppable force. A few large-bodied demon sheep, heads lowered, single-mindedly charged towards here, knocking down trees along the way without losing speed. A dozen or so tang jiaos entwined and twisted on the treetops, using the trees to constantly shift their bodies, soon closing to within 400 or 500 meters of the bonfire. The originally silent dense forest suddenly became bustling with activity. The cold beasts charged madly towards here, their bloodthirsty vertical pupils fixated on the bonfire, filled with intense desire and craving. Rumble! 100 or more cold beasts, maybe even more, rushed towards the bonfire from all directions, forming a small beast tide in moments, the snow mist soaring tens of meters high, the ground shaking ceaselessly. Bang, bang, bang. What was worse, heavy footsteps echoed again from the perimeter of the beast tide. Over a dozen cold beasts, each 7 to 10 meters long, approached as well. Anyone with a bit of hunting experience would know. Those were intermediate cold beasts. Human cold resistance level's measure of strength is the intermediate snowman. 1 main equals 100,000 jin of strength. Most intermediate cold beasts' impact force reached this standard, some even exceeded it. Even those not known for strength, like the blue moon elf and frost wolf, possessed about 70 to 80,000 jin of force. A dozen intermediate cold beasts charging towards one spot created a commotion even more terrifying than those 100 low-level cold beasts. There is a food chain among cold beasts as well. Under normal circumstances, things targeted by a dozen intermediate cold beasts should be avoided by low-level cold beasts. But at this moment, the situation seemed peculiar. The 100 low-level cold beasts looked at the bonfire at the center, madness in their pupils. They didn't slow down at all due to the arrival of intermediate cold beasts. Rather, they became even more frenzied, their speed increasing significantly. The bonfire's allure to them was simply too strong. Strong enough that even at the risk of death, they were still trying to get close. In an instant, the front row of a dozen low-level cold beasts had already arrived within less than 100 meters of the bonfire, leaping straight towards it. Release the arrows. At that moment, a sudden loud command echoed in midair. Whoosh and whoosh and whoosh. Countless iron arrows suddenly flew out from the 3 large trees surrounding the bonfire, targeting the first wave of a dozen cold beasts charging through. The number of black arrows was simply overwhelming, and with a unified target, describing it as an arrow rain would be insufficient. It almost formed a black wall, but that wall was pushing from the inside out, and at incredible speed. Thud, thud, thud. The first wave of the arrow rain pierced the first dozen low-level cold beasts in midair, turning them into sieves. But that wasn't the end. The arrow rain was more than just one wave. The second wave of arrow rain followed closely. Thousands of iron arrows converged into one. The terrifying force directly sent the bodies of those cold beasts, yet to land, flying backwards, crashing into the cold beasts behind them. Boom! A low-level snow mane, turned into a sieve by the second wave of arrow rain, had its body shot back into a frost wolf, knocking it back a good dozen meters. Roar! The disoriented frost wolf shook its head, issuing a loud roar, yet continued to charge at the bonfire. The frost wolf was just a microcosm. Many cold beasts bounced back, reacted the same way, all continued charging towards the bonfire. However, a small portion of the more astute cold beasts raised their gaze slightly, looking at the tops of the 3 large trees surrounding the bonfire, their pupils suddenly contracting. The tops of those trees were surprisingly densely packed with people. Those people were all clad in iron armor, wielding strong bows, aiming their bows and arrows in different directions, repeatedly shooting iron arrows at them. Empty the iron arrows in 15 seconds quickly. Another loud command echoed. All the people atop the 3 large trees increased their shooting speed, almost shooting 3 to 4 arrows per second, and almost all of them emptied the dozens of iron arrows in their arrow quivers in 15 seconds. The power of 13 waves of the arrow curtain was truly terrifying. In an instant, about 30% of the 100 low-level cold beasts fell, the key being this wave of killing cleared the minds of the cold beasts following behind. Of course, their eyes still brimmed with greed as they looked at the bonfire, but more cold beasts could clearly see the people atop the 3 large trees. Chapter 682, Chapter 284, Astounding Training Results, the Voyeur /2. Roar! The remaining 70 or so cold beasts still charged towards the bonfire, but not as mindlessly as before. They noticed that the iron arrows were exhausted and charged towards the 3 large trees by the bonfire first. These were just low-level cold beasts. A dozen intermediate cold beasts nearby were not intimidated by the iron arrows at all. The Tengjiao wrapped around treetops, frost wolves raced across the snowy ground, and as for snow-maned demon sheep, they recklessly charged, relying on their tough skins. In an instant, the cold beasts closed the last stretch of distance, and surrounded the three large trees, with the nearest wave less than 10 meters from the base of the trees. Blade Camp, form a formation off the trees. Once again, that commanding voice rang out. From each of the three trees, 100-man team jumped down. They were all clad in light gold armor, wielding double-edged long-handled blades, with blades over 10 centimeters wide and more than a meter long. After these 300-man teams jumped down, they quickly stood in three directions, thrusting blade tips forward to form three spearhead phalanxes, aiming at the cold beasts charging towards them. Roar! Human weapons cannot intimidate the cold beasts. Moreover, cold beasts are extremely cunning and adept at using their bodies flexibly. Even when faced with so many blade tips, they relied on their sturdy body parts to charge directly. Snow Mane used its back full of spines. Frost Wolf used a ring of bone spikes on its neck. Demon Sheep used its hard hexagonal horns. Thunder Kiwi used its hardest skull section. Blade Camp, hold the line. Horizontal Blade Camp, all descend, prepare. Once again, the command voice sounded. The three Blade Camps on the ground looked at the approaching cold beasts, their faces slightly tense. The veins on their hands gripping the blades bulged, with no sign of retreat. From the three trees, 200 more people jumped down in succession, all holding great Xia short-handled horizontal blades, standing behind the Blade Camp, their eyes fixed on the charging cold beasts, leaning slightly forward, poised to strike. Bang! Finally, the cold beasts charged in. The first wave of at least 20 or 30 cold beasts, using their hardest body parts, slammed into the high upright spearhead phalanx of the Blade Camps. The size of the cold beasts is much larger than humans, so even just over 20 cold beasts covered the entire front of the Blade Camps with their impact. Crack, crack, crack. Among the loud crashing sounds, mixed were many sounds of bones fracturing, perhaps some of cold beasts, perhaps some human ones. The circle formed by the three Blade Camps indeed contracted inward by a circle. The immense size of the cold beasts, coupled with their terrifying power, arriving at such speed, created an overwhelming force that is beyond normal imagination. Whirring. In mere words, the airflow generated just by this group of cold beasts' impact was enough to directly break off all the icicles from the three trees. The Blade Camps, amazingly, held their ground. Splashy, splashy, splash. Not only did they hold, but they even began to fight back. The cold beasts were smart enough to use their hardest body parts to hit the spearhead phalanx formed by the Blade Camps. Humans were naturally not foolish either. After the first wave of impact, they immediately swung their large blades and began slashing at the cold beasts in front of them. Horizontal Blade Camp charge. 600-man horizontal blade camps surged past the Blade Camps like a tide, charging towards the now hindered beast tide. The horizontal blades were inherently flexible. Once in the midst of the beast tide, they immediately separated into units of 20, each pursuing a cold beast. Their techniques were skilled, roles were clearly divided, with a main attack, support attack, interference, and restraint. Some with fast speeds could slay a cold beast within 10 breaths, while the slower ones took at most about 20 breaths. Compared to the horizontal blade camp, the three Blade Camp teams were slower in eradicating the beasts, but their goal was obviously not eradication, but defense. After the horizontal Blade Camp engaged and entangled the cold beasts, the Blade Camp immediately filled their positions, pressing forward to suppress the unattended cold beasts, preventing them from interfering with the eradication efforts of the horizontal Blade Camp. This beast tide initially comprised just over 100 heads, with over 30% eradicated by 15 waves of arrow rain. The first wave clash with the Blade Camp took out another dozen or so. Now, after this round of eradication by the horizontal Blade Camp, more than 30 fell. In less than 20 breaths, the entire beast tide was reduced to just over 30 heads. And as the 6 horizontal Blade Camps freed their hands after finishing the first wave, the fate of the remaining 30 was naturally predictable. Roar! The issue was that these 100 cold beasts were all just low-level ones. When the 6 horizontal Blade Camps encircled the final 30 cold beasts, a dozen intermediate cold beasts from the outskirts were just charging in. Compared to low-level cold beasts, these were bigger, and their impact force was naturally more astonishing. An intermediate Tengjiao, coiling around treetops as it came, eyed a gap in the Blade Camp, opened its fangs and pounced from the sky. At this moment, a black blade flew up and knocked its head away. Several white threads abruptly shot from beneath the tree, piercing through its pupils. Roar! The intense pain made the Teng Jiao roar incessantly, yet the threads did not stop due to its roar. They shot through the pupils, emerged from the posterior of the skull, quickly entangled it a few times, then fiercely tightened. Bang! The Teng Jiao's head was violently pulled down, slamming forcefully onto the ground. Xia Chuan, holding the black blade vertically, leaped down from the tree, stabbing the blade straight through the Teng Jiao's skull. Meanwhile, Xia Chuan also issued the final command. Scout Camp Strike. Liu Yuan led 100 elite scouts jumping down from the tree. Unlike the other 9 camps equipped only with Mo blades and horizontal blades, these elites bore a variety of weapons: swords, spears, sabers, staffs, evidently what each was skilled in. Chapter 683. Chapter 284. Astounding Training Results. The Voyeur /3. They leaped down from the trees, not splitting into units of 20 like the other 9 camps, but instead targeting those final dozen intermediate cold beasts with full force. Blinding, piercing, grabbing the weaknesses of these dozen intermediate cold beasts, the 100 elite troops acted steadily, accurately, fiercely, and in an instant pinned these intermediate cold beasts firmly in place. Though not killing them compared to the other 9 camps, the suppression on the cold beasts after these 100 elite troops entered the field was significantly stronger. And in this interval, the other 9 camps had also dealt with the remaining 30-plus low-level cold beasts. With their hands free, they didn't need Xia Chuan to issue further commands. They all charged forward, directly surrounding the dozen intermediate cold beasts. The people from the 9 camps, working with the 100 elite troops, executed a full-scale assault on these final dozen intermediate cold beasts, taking less than 50 breaths to complete. Bang! With the last intermediate frost wolf trying to flee collapsing, this small-scale beast tide was completely declared over. 126 low-level, 16 intermediate, totaling 142 cold beasts, the smallest 3-digit beast tide, took a total of 289 breaths, 30 breaths less than the last time. Not bad. Xia Chuan, clad in pale golden armor, turned to look at his 1,000 troops behind him, a smile appearing on his face. Upon hearing the results, he announced, Liu Yuan, closest to him, and over 1,000 people behind him, all showed expressions of great excitement. Getting faster and faster at this rate. Perhaps later we won't even need 200 breaths to deal with a wave of small beast tide. What 200 breaths? Minister said our goal is within 100 breaths. I estimate a few more times should be enough. Stop the nonsense in the army. We should call him commander. Right, forgot. Hearing everyone's joking, Xia Chuan's eyes also showed a hint of exhilaration. After the Cloud Dragon army arrived at Wushuang on the night of June 9, Xia Chuan immediately led the army into Long Mountain the next day to start military training. In half a month's time, from dealing with a few beasts at a time at the start, to attracting over 10 cold beasts with small fire torches, taking 3 nights. Then lighting a large bonfire tonight and actively creating a small-scale beast tide, taking 4 nights. In the following 8 days, Xia Chuan had the Cloud Dragon army handle 2 such small-scale beast tides every night. From initial damage and taking several hours, even up to 1 or 2 hours, then a few tens of minutes, shortening to several hundred breaths, the growth of Cloud Dragon army soldiers has become stronger each day. By today, they can already compress the time to under 300 breaths. The effect of this half-month military training has already far exceeded his expectations. This is the power of an elite army. I was previously worried that withdrawing elite personnel from the hunting team might affect the camp's supply of beast meat, but looking back, it's ridiculous. Such an elite army has terrifying hunting abilities. If I could form a few more, the camp in the future would certainly not lack beast meat and beast blood. Xia Chuan sighed slightly, then looked at the soldiers of the 10 camps. A glimmer appeared in his eyes. Big brother is right. Mo Blade Camp, Horizontal Blade Camp, Elite Scout Camp, focusing on distinguishing between the 3 troop types and choosing the timing for entering the battlefield is more important than enhancing their individual strength. Further refinement of troop classification must continue, so that on the real battlefield their power will be even more terrifying. Who come out? Just as Xia Chuan was feeling emotional, Liu Yuan, who was tidying up the battlefield on the other side, seemed to have discovered something. He shouted fiercely and charged towards a large tree on the left side of the battlefield's periphery. Someone is spying. Xia Chuan's brows furrowed sharply, turning towards Liu Yuan's direction. The Cloud Dragon army arrived at Wushuang on June 9, and on the 10th, he urgently led the army into Long Mountain. Military training was, of course, the most important objective. But there was another layer of purpose. He didn't want the Cloud Dragon army to be known too early by Long Mountain and Jieyang families. Being spied upon is a big taboo. Liu Yuan had already caught a person and brought them over. Xia Chuan looked at that person. A flash of killing intent appeared in his eyes. Chapter 684, Chapter 285, Two clans in turmoil. What does White Du Gu want to guard? Liu Yuan had captured a young man in white clothing. He probably witnessed the Cloud Dragon army slaughtering the cold beast and was still in a daze, his pupils full of shock. Commander, he must be someone from Long Mountain. Xia Chuan waved his hand. From the young man's clothing he already knew, the color and style were evidently from Long Mountain. Meanwhile, the young man in white revived, especially as he looked up to see Xia Chuan's murderous gaze. He immediately shivered and quickly said, "Spare me, my lord. I am Zhu Ping. I was specially instructed to deliver a message to Great Xia. I stumbled into this place by accident and did not mean to spy." Xia Chuan's expression froze for a moment, then he turned and looked 3 or 4 kilometers away. After a moment's thought, he asked, "Who sent you with the message?" "Li Hu Yangzhang." As expected. A hint of realization flashed in Xia Chuan's eyes. This was the closest branch of Long Mountain to Wushuang. Their current position was about 8 kilometers in depth. From Long Mountain to Wushuang, not taking the plains meant passing the outer perimeter 4 kilometers away. I was just about to head to Wushuang when I noticed the commotion here. I guessed it was the people of Great Xia hunting, so I came over. I did not intentionally spy on Great Xia's training. I hope you will forgive me, my lord. Upon hearing this explanation, Xia Chuan still did not lower his guard. He merely gestured for Liu Yuan to release Zhu Ping and continued to ask, "What messages were you asked to convey to me?" Once Zhu Ping was released, he hesitated for a moment but quickly responded. 2 messages in total. First, a newly formed 1,000-strong army has recently been added to Long Mountain. Second, Long Mountain plans to send a large batch of supplies to White Abyss. Brother Hu is 90% certain that it consists of complete sets of 100 forged level weapons and war armor, estimated to be around 800 sets. On hearing these 2 messages, Xia Chuan's expression suddenly changed. Standing behind Zhu Ping, Liu Yuan was likewise affected. Long Mountain already had 3,000 Longyu army, and it was nearly invincible across Longyu. To add another 1,000 troops was clearly preparation for something. White Abyss had long since pledged loyalty to Hu. The 1,000-strong Blood Guard army from Jieyang was currently stationed at Beiyuan camp. Sending complete sets of 100 forged level weapons and war armor to White Abyss signifies what? A trade. Impossible. 100 forged level war armor and weapons are strategic resources, highly valuable to any camp. A single set or a limited number might be traded, but not in large quantities as a trade. Sets could nearly arm a 1,000-strong army. Xia Chuan had been worrying about equipment for the Cloud Dragon army recently, so he had every reason to believe that 800 sets of 100 forged weapons and war armor would not be sold by either Great Xia, Jieyang, or Long Mountain to the opposing side. Considering the past relationship between Long Mountain and Jieyang, Li Xuanling selling 800 sets to Jieyang was out of the question. Xia Chuan's eye twitched sharply, and a bold speculation suddenly flashed through his mind. No, it was no longer a mere speculation. He was almost certain of it. The relations between the 2 parties must have undergone a dramatic change. Xia Chuan hurried to calm himself before continuing to question Zhu Ping. "Why didn't Li Hu and Yang Zhang come themselves? What is your relationship with the 2 of them?" Zhu Ping did not say much more. He simply pulled a token from his bosom and handed it to Xia Chuan, bowing. "This is Brother Hu's token. Brother Hu and Brother Zhang both joined the new army and cannot leave the camp for long, so they entrusted me to deliver the message to you, my lord." Xia Chuan looked down at the token in his hand, and his suspicion of Zhu Ping vanished. This was his hunting team's token, which he personally handed to Li Hu last month on the 20th when Li Hu came to Wushuang to deliver a message. Zhu Ping then continued, That batch of supplies was originally planned by Long Mountain to be sent to White Abyss after nightfall on the 10th, but for some unknown reason, the date was postponed to the 20th. Xia Chuan's face brightened. The date Zhu Ping mentioned should be according to the Longyu calendar, which was 10 days ahead of the Daxia calendar. Delivering on the 20th in Daxia calendar terms meant the 30th of this month, in 5 days at nightfall. Liu Yuan, continue to keep the main force here, training at night as usual. Return to the camp at daybreak. I will come to find you before daybreak on the 30th. Understood. After giving instructions to Liu Yuan, Xia Chuan then said to Zhu Ping, "You follow me. For the foreseeable future, you'll stay at Wushuang. I will let you return to Long Mountain when the time is right." Zhu Ping was momentarily surprised but quickly thought through it, nodding as he followed Xia Chuan toward Wushuang. The Wushuang camp was surrounded by more than 800 giant stones, each over 10 meters high, 3 to 5 meters wide, and nearly 10 meters thick. The inside of the camp was a circular space with a diameter of about 1 kilometer, filled with buildings centered around a main tower. Great Xia had occupied Wushuang for 2 months now, and the original giant stone array camp had naturally undergone some changes. The gaps between the outer giant stones had all been filled with molten iron, and the tops of the stones were lined with iron spikes, obviously to prevent anyone from climbing over. The only exit, the eastern gate, had also been replaced with a thicker and heavier iron gate, which opened and closed in the same way as the gate of Xia City, suspended by chains in midair. Just these 2 points were enough to show that, after being modified by Great Xia, the defensive capabilities of the Wushuang camp had greatly increased over what it was before. The interior of the camp had also undergone significant changes. Chapter 685, Chapter 285, Two Clans in Turmoil, What Does White Dugu Want to Guard? Part 2. It seems to be in response to the decrease in population that there are far fewer houses within the garrison, leaving only around 50 buildings, most of which are still made of iron, surrounding the central main building as before. Greetings, Minister. Find him a place to stay. Xia Chuan led Zhu Ping all the way to the bottom of the main building. After instructing his subordinate, he turned to Zhu Ping and said, "You will stay here for the time being, do not go anywhere. Once this matter is settled, I will let you return." Zhu Ping said nothing, nodding in agreement as he followed the person downstairs. Xia Chuan then made his way to the top floor of the main building. Seeing the empty main seat at the back of the Great Hall, his expression slightly darkened. "Isn't the minister training troops in the mountains? Why has he returned?" Lin Kai, upon learning of Xia Chuan's return, hurried over. Seeing the heaviness on Xia Chuan's face, he quickly asked out of curiosity. Xia Chuan lifted his head. Seeing no reason to hide it from Lin Kai, he disclosed all the information Zhu Ping had brought, without omission. 800 sets of 100 forged weapons and war armor delivered from Long Mountain to Baiyuan camp. How is this possible? Are you sure, sir, that there is no issue with Zhu Ping? After listening, Lin Kai was filled with disbelief and instinctively doubted Zhu Ping, suspecting that he might have brought false news. But he immediately realized that Xia Chuan wouldn't be so easily deceived, and it was likely that he had confidence in Zhu Ping's information before bringing it back. What could Zhejiang possibly offer that would make Long Mountain willing to pay such a hefty price for 800 sets of finished 100 forged weapons and war armor? Not to mention the tremendous time and effort expended by the craftsmen. Just the iron ore alone is in the billions of pounds. Lin Kai paused for a moment and continued. Moreover, wasn't Zhejiang trying to challenge Long Mountain's hegemonic status before? Weren't their relations supposed to be very poor? Sending so many weapons and war armor over is a blatant act of aiding the enemy, and could those people from Long Mountain be so foolish? The key is, Long Mountain has just established a new army. Even if Long Mountain's treasury is full and can produce so many weapons and war armor after equipping the new army, there's no need to squander it all by selling them to Zhejiang, right? Upon hearing Lin Kai's words, Xia Chuan's expression slightly tightened as he asked, "Why are you so sure that the relationship between Long Mountain and Zhejiang is poor?" Lin Kai was momentarily stunned, looking at Xia Chuan with some confusion. Xia Chuan spoke quietly. That poor relationship was in the past, before the great Xia intervened in Longyu. Indeed, their relations were poor, but now. Lin Kai's expression changed dramatically, realizing the implication of Xia Chuan's words. "Are you saying that the two are collaborating against us?" Besides this reason, I can't think of any other explanation for why Long Mountain would willingly deliver 800 sets of 100 forged weapons and war armor into Hu's hands. Lin Kai's body shook, finally understanding the cause of Xia Chuan's grave demeanor. How many days has it been since the leader last returned? Lin Kai quickly replied, today is the 3rd day. After arriving at Wushuang on the 9th day of June, Xia Hong had secluded himself for 13 consecutive days. It wasn't until 3 days ago that he emerged, immediately taking Chen Yingyuan and Peng Bo to scout the situation at Yanglu camp, and he has yet to return. Seeing the worry on Xia Chuan's face, Lin Kai tried to console him. The leader is so powerful he won't be in trouble. Don't worry, minister. Xia Chuan shook his head slightly and said, of course, there won't be any problem with the leader. I am worried about whether Long Mountain and Jieyang have really merged. If that's the case, the great Xia's future situation will be troublesome, and whether those 800 sets of weapons and war armor should be smoothly handed over to Jieyang by Long Mountain is another issue. Of course not. Lin Kai spoke instinctively, but he stopped himself before finishing his sentence, showing a trace of difficulty on his face, unwilling to continue further. The importance of those 800 sets of weapons and war armor was clear to them. Wouldn't Long Mountain and Jieyang also understand? In Wushuang, besides the 1,000 Cloud Dragon army, there are, including Xia Hong and their 7 cold resistance levels in total. With Xia Hong and the other 2 absent, only 4 cold resistance levels remain. The Cloud Dragon army is indeed formidable, but the Longyu army and Blood Guard army are not weak either. Given their strength, trying to seize that batch of supplies might be. Long Mountain has already established a new army, and Jieyang likely wants this batch of weapons and war armor to form a new army as well. If nothing is done now, the great Xia's troubles will only grow in the future. Moreover, this batch of weapons and war armor is highly coveted by the Cloud Dragon army. Xia Chuan's thoughts gradually became clearer. He decisively instructed Lin Kai, you go back to Xia City. If there's no one, then send someone over. We can't let Long Mountain simply deliver these items into Hu's hands. Understood. Lin Kai bowed and immediately turned to leave. There are still 5 days left. It's possible my brother will return in the meantime. Besides, the Cloud Dragon army has been honing its skills against the Beast Tide during this period. How they will perform on the actual battlefield remains uncertain, so taking them out to engage directly with the Longyu army and Blood Guard army is beneficial. Of course, even if it's a trial, preparations must be thoroughly made. After all, the newly established Cloud Dragon army is precious to Xia Chuan. Otherwise, he wouldn't personally train troops in the mountains. The fact that not a single soldier has been lost in the past half-month is proof enough. The route for Long Mountain's transport of supplies, the potential reception points for Jieyang, as well as the meeting locations between both parties, all factors have to be considered. The clash should only be with one of the parties, and a retreat route also needs to be taken into account. Xia Chuan took out the geomancy map from his bosom and found a place to sit in the hall, proceeding to study it intently. Chapter 686, Chapter 285, Two Clans in Turmoil, What Does White Dugu Want to Guard? Part 3. By the end of April, after the situation in Longyu settled down, the great Xia never stopped exploring the environs around Wushuang. Now, more than 2 months have passed, and the details of the map have naturally become more intricate. The key is, in the past half-month, Liu Yuan wasn't just accompanying the troops in training within the Long Mountain branch. His reconnaissance camp had long ventured into the territories of the White Abyss and Song Yuan families, thoroughly surveying the situation within both domains. What Xia Chuan was unaware of was that Zhu Ping, who had been taken to the guest room, now had a heart filled with both apprehension and astonishment. The cause of his apprehension was obviously Xia Chuan's lack of trust in him. Zhu Ping wasn't foolish. He was acutely aware of why Xia Chuan wanted to keep him there. Only after 5 days, when the 2 pieces of information he brought along are verified, would he have been considered to have passed this round of trials and gained Xia Chuan's true trust. The cause of his astonishment was, I've seen the Longyu army train before. At most, they would just push step by step against the cold beasts along the periphery of Long Mountain. The great Xia actually uses the Beast Tide for training. I didn't see incorrectly, it's the Beast Tide. How did they manage to create the Beast Tide? This is too crazy. Above a large tree in the Yanglu realm, in the southern part of Wushuang, Xia Hong, dressed in black, stands atop the treetop, with Chen Yingyuan and Peng Bo standing behind him, all three moving in unison, gazing far westward. The treetop position where the three stood was about over 200 meters above ground, and below the tree was a thick, dense white mist. The mist was so dense that even the tree trunks in midair were completely obscured, with the ground entirely invisible. It must be noted that in Pinxi Plain there's not much tree cover, so even at night, the visibility is extremely high. The sky had already turned gray at this moment, yet the visibility remained so low, indicating the density of this white mist. Roars roar. Within the white mist zone under the tree, the beast roars almost never ceased. Anyone with a bit of hunting experience could tell, upon hearing this dense beast roar, the cold beast density here was terrifyingly high. The reason for the disappearance of the beast tide in the Arrow Bamboo Forest has been found. So many cold beasts in Redwood Ridge have actually all rushed into the Yanglu realm. Upon hearing Chen Yingyuan's words, Peng Bo nodded and continued, "In 3 days, we have only ventured 10 kilometers inward, encountering 3 groups of cold beasts, 4 advanced cold beasts, with countless scattered cold beasts. I've hunted in Redwood Ridge for so long, but have never encountered such a situation. It should be that the cold beasts from the depths of Redwood Ridge have all rushed over here. This white mist zone is the reason, isn't it, leader?" After Chen Yingyuan spoke, he and Peng Bo both looked towards Xia Hong ahead. Upon hearing this, Xia Hong nodded, turned his head towards the packs on the backs of the two, and asked, "How much solidified fire oil do you have left on you?" If someone were nearby, they would see the three completely covered in a layer of dark grease, resembling 3 people scorched by fire. However, the grease on their bodies was continuously eroding under the infiltration of the white mist, evidently showing that the mist contained exceptionally strong deceitful monster energy. "I still have 27 blocks on my side." "I have 31 blocks. Xia Hong furrowed his brow slightly. Since departing from Wushuang, he had told the two to each carry 100 blocks of solidified fire oil, but in just 3 days, 2/3 had been used, with them only pushing 10 kilometers inward. "Peng Bo, how far is it from here to Yangyuan Peak?" Peng Bo, brow slightly furrowed, observed for a while before answering, "Should be more than 20 kilometers. More than 20 kilometers, the solidified fire oil is definitely not enough. So many cold beasts have gathered here, yet we haven't seen them colluding to attack the surrounding human camps. It seems they simply like staying in this thick fog area. Having lived for 50 to 60 years, I have really never seen such a situation." After Chen Yingyuan spoke, he took a piece of jade bone out of his backpack, saying, "The cold beasts we've killed along the way, whether low-level, intermediate, or advanced, didn't show any signs of being manipulated. The beast meat, beast blood, and even the jade bone are all in normal condition. Leader, do you really think the gathering of these cold beasts here is related to that white Dugu at Yangyuan Peak?" Xia Hong's determined expression was equivalent to answering Chen Yingyuan's question. In fact, from the moment they saw the Yanglu Misty area 3 days ago, Xia Hong had already concluded that the white Dugu definitely wasn't dead. The reason was quite simple. The white mist area in Chen Peng's eyes was clearly a region covered by fiery red substances under his eye of truth. He had previously seen those fiery red substances on Wuxiang, controlled by the white Dugu, when Hanqiang was eradicated. From this, he could almost confirm that Wuxiang, slain by him that day, was merely a puppet controlled by the white Dugu. Not only was that white Dugu not dead, it had become even stronger. From its ability to create a dense fog area extending tens of kilometers and attracting so many cold beasts to gather here, this could be inferred. "Leader, shall I go back to fetch some solidified fire oil and continue to venture inside?" Peng Bo was eager to return to Yangyuan Peak, likely worried that Xia Hong was unwilling to continue exploring inward, so he initiated the suggestion. Xia Hong stood in place, pondering for a moment, then said, "You and Chen Yingyuan should bring the cold beasts we've hunted in the past 3 days back. I'll keep exploring further inside to see just how dense the cold beasts get." "Leader, this." Chen Yingyuan was probably concerned about Xia Hong's safety. Peng Bo, on the other hand, evidently wanted to follow him further, yet hesitated due to the limited solidified fire oil, unable to make a decision. "All right, let's settle this like so. Judging from the cold beast density in just the outer 10 kilometers, I predict we'll be forced out by the cold beasts before reaching Yangyuan Peak. You two head back first." Chapter 687, Chapter 285. Two families stir. What does the white do-gu want to defend? Since Xia Hong insisted, Chen Peng and the others didn't have much to say. After clasping their hands in salute, they jumped down from the tree and walked north toward Wushuang. Xia Hong turned his head to look toward Yangyuan Peak to the south, his expression slightly shifting. Attracting a large number of cold beasts here without causing trouble for the surrounding camps means the purpose is to make this place an impasse, preventing others from approaching. The cold beasts serve a protective role. What exactly are you trying to protect? The 48th year of Longyu, June 20th. After nightfall, on the outskirts of Longshan camp, a 1,000-strong army, ready to set off, guarded 10 giant iron four-wheeled carts, forming a line over 200 meters long. To the east of the camp's perimeter, there was a road cleared just a few days ago, suitable for the four-wheeled carts to proceed. Capital Commandant Zhou Yuan stood at the front of the line, giving instructions aloud. At the back of the line, Yang Zhang and Li Hu stood side by side, glancing at the 100 large wooden crates loaded on the 10 carts, exchanging a look of inscrutable intent. All right, let's move out. Finally, Zhou Yuan finished his instructions, and with an order, the frontmost team began pushing the carts forward, followed by the rest, one after the other. Ninth team, Yang Zhang and Li Hu, along with 20 others, walked to the front of the four-wheel to attach themselves with ropes slung over their shoulders, then started pulling with all their might. Held back for 10 days just for some training, huh? Originally, it was said that the Second Army would escort them, but Commandant Zhou Yuan decided that our Fourth Army, having just formed, was more suitable for this not-too-difficult mission. It's a good opportunity to train us and also intimidate Hu a little. Intimidate Hu. It's obvious these are 100 forged-level weapon war armors being escorted. As I heard, Hu has already defected to us in Longshan, and these weapons are sent from our camp to them. I figured as much. What does Zhejiang have to fight us Longshan with? Their defection to us is only a matter of time. Tusk, these 100 forged-level weapons and armors were just issued to the new army, and now so many are sent to them at once. Hearing the whispers in the ranks, both Li Hu and Yang Zhang sighed slightly. 5 days ago, upon discovering that the contents of the crates were to be sent to White Abyss, they immediately sent Zhu Ping to inform Great Xia. But who would have thought, over the past 5 days, rumors in Longshan have been spreading more and more. Even the news of Hu defecting to Longshan reached them. Upon learning this, their first instinct was to inform Great Xia. The problem was, Zhu Ping left and never returned, and they couldn't find anyone else. It's not that they had bad relations. It was mainly Li Yuanqing and Yang Gan who were causing trouble. Normally, few dared approach them, and finding someone as trustworthy as Zhu Ping was nearly impossible. The news about Hu defecting to Longshan is likely true. A few days ago, I saw people from Zhejiang camp in the military camp. Although they were far away, their attire made it almost certain. We must find a way to get this message to the minister. Listening to Yang Zhang's whisper, Li Hu first nodded, but then a hint of helplessness appeared in his eyes. He bowed his head and said softly, "As for the previous 2 messages, we still don't know if Zhu Ping managed to deliver them to Great Xia. This new message will be even harder to convey. While in the base, we can't leave the camp, but outside it's different. On the road, there'll certainly be opportunities. We just need one of us to leave the ranks." Li Hu nodded and whispered, "Zhou Yuan just mentioned that the destination is at the border between Changning and White Abyss, over 30 kilometers away, expected to take more than 5 hours. We'll definitely have a chance en route." Strictly speaking, White Abyss is located in the middle of Longyu, with Longshan to the east adjacent to Changning, and then further east lies White Abyss. Such an important batch of supplies won't have Zhejiang waiting for them to be delivered inside the White Abyss base. The territory of Changning is narrow from north to south, and only around 10 kilometers from east to west, not too wide. Hu will surely dispatch a large force from White Abyss to meet them in Changning's territory. I hope Zhu Ping has already communicated the message to the minister. I just realized through this shipment that it pretty much reveals Zhejiang and Longshan's current plans. Once the minister knows, they'll surely devise a response. Li Hu pondered silently, a flash of urgency crossing his eyes. Chapter 688, Chapter 286, Zhou Yuan's Dilemma, Changbai Gully. East of Long Mountain, western border of Changning. The convoy transporting supplies was advancing through the snow against the biting wind. "Speed up, get a move on. You've run out of energy after just 2 hours. Stop dragging your feet, it's just the last 20 kilometers, we're almost there. Speed up, all of you. Since entering Changning's territory, Commanding Officer Zhou Yuan's urging had been unceasing. It seemed like his nerves were too tense, as he was constantly pushing the army forward, ignoring the morale of his men. Commandant, we've covered 12 kilometers in 2 hours. The troop's speed is already at its maximum, it can't go any faster. Following Zhou Yuan at the rear, the 2nd Battalion commanding Captain Cheng, he noticed many soldiers panting heavily and couldn't help but speak up on their behalf. 1st Battalion commanding Captain Song Ning added, Commandant, Changning is now under Long Mountain's jurisdiction. We are quite familiar with the conditions here, and the roads ahead have been cleared in advance. There's no need to rush so much. The 2 Battalion commanding captains, Li Yuankai and Li Yuanqing, although silent, nodded in agreement with the others. The snowfield presented complex conditions, and without any aids, the marching speed of the Longyu army was about 5 to 6 kilometers per hour. This newly formed military unit might be slower by 2 or 3 tenths. Marching speed is inherently slow, and with 10 massive 4-wheel vehicles, it's naturally even slower. Thankfully, a few days ago, the Changning garrison had cleared a marching route in advance. Otherwise, they couldn't have covered 12 kilometers in 2 hours. The current marching speed was already ridiculously fast. After the upheaval in Longyu in April, Yucheng, Changning and Songyuan were all annexed by Long Mountain, and naturally their territories became Long Mountain's. The garrison of the 3 families now all had some Long Mountain personnel. Stepping into Changning's territory felt like home. To the people involved, Zhou Yuan seemed overly tense. Yet upon hearing Cheng He and Song Ning, Zhou Yuan showed no restraint and continued urging before turning to the duo with a somber tone. The new unit is newly formed, and this is our first expedition. I don't ask for merit, but I do ask for no failures. Everything must be handled cautiously, yourself included. Upon hearing these words, Cheng He, Song Ning, Li Yuankai and Li Yuanqing all exchanged glances, their expressions somewhat odd, but they said nothing, nodding gently. Zhou Yuan, being advanced in age, naturally saw that the 4 hadn't truly listened, a hint of anger on his face. But looking at their youthful faces, he said nothing further and merely ordered. There are still about 20 kilometers to the destination, an estimated 3 hours' journey. You 4 go ahead and scout the path to avoid any special situations. The 4 exchanged looks, showing signs of reluctance, but seeing Zhou Yuan's angry face, dared not refuse. They bowed and complied, pairing up in groups of 2, running towards the distant east. Zhou Yuan, hanging on the army's flank, watched the 4 leave. As his anger subsided, he sighed slightly. They say they handed the newly created army completely to me, yet inserted these 4 nails, with 2 commanding captains being from their own, showing their distrust towards me, an outsider. Leader, alas. Long Mountain had a large enterprise, hence heavy regulation, the control of the army always held by the Li family. Li Xuanling, holding the leadership position, controlled 2 commander's seals, and she alone could mobilize all 3 Longyu army units in the camp. The Li family was inherently the ruler of Long Mountain, so holding military power was understandable. The problem was, the Li family's actions were somewhat exaggerated. Long Mountain had 3,000-man armies, now separately commanded by Li Xuanyan, Li Xuanqiang, and Li Xuandu. The 3 large armies collectively had 12 colonels, 11 of whom bore the surname Li. The only exception, Yang Zhai, wasn't Li by name, but was actually Li Tiancheng's grandson. To outsiders, this felt somewhat excessive. Not that outsiders wanted to meddle with the camp's military power, but everyone requires room to grow, especially for them at the cold resistance level. Positions like colonel and commandant aren't merely symbols of status. They come with substantial allocation of cultivation resources. More crucially, it's about whether the Li family completely trusts outsiders like them. Zhou Yuan, being a direct subordinate of the former leader Li Tianhua, one of the Longshan 8 Great Vajra, and one of the council elders of Long Mountain, needed no testament to his loyalty to the Li family. But that didn't mean he lacked the desire to cultivate and strengthen himself, elevate his power and status. The issue of outsiders holding positions in the military was something Li Tianhua proposed for reform 2 years ago, but since his departure, none spoke of it again, remaining a sensitive topic in Long Mountain since. Up until last month, end of May, after meeting Hu Hu, Li Xuanling proposed during a council to establish a new military unit, appointing outsiders to commandant roles, sparking a huge controversy. No exceptions, Li family members almost universally opposed, while all outsiders at the cold resistance level, including Zhou Yuan, unanimously supported. Ultimately, Li Xuanling overcame the opposition and chose him to be the new army captain. Zhou Yuan was so moved he nearly wept with joy. Recalling years of diligent service under Li Tianhua, loyalty to the Li family finally paid off. He swore internally to lead the new army well, achieve greatness for Long Mountain, to repay the trust of 2 consecutive leaders.